Good evening, everyone. I'd like to take this moment to thank all of you for coming out to the meeting tonight. We have quite a bit to cover, but hopefully we'll move through it pretty quickly. I'll have some more instructions for you as we move forward. But thank you for coming out tonight, taking an interest in what's happening in your city. Before we begin, I would like to ask everyone to please stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As so often happens, I'd like to begin this meeting with a proclamation. Is Sharon Smith with us? Sharon, please come forward.
Good. How are you doing?
I don't have a remote microphone, but I'd like for you to come down front. I'm going to read from here, and then I'm going to come around and get a picture with you. Okay? All right. All right. Whereas the Guilford Merchants Association is a business membership organization focused on supporting member companies with educational programming, lead generation activities, marketing opportunities, and overall enrichment, while serving as a catalyst for community growth and prosperity throughout the Triad. Whereas the High Point Holiday Festival Parade has been held annually except for a couple of years during war and 1 year attributable to the COVID-19 pandemic. The parade brings joy to the community, spectators, and participants, and ushers in the holiday season. Whereas Sharon C. Smith has faithfully and with dedication served the greater High Point community as parade manager for 40 years, both with the High Point Merchants Association and the Guilford Merchants Association. The High Point Holiday Festival Parade has grown under her management to become one of the largest in the state for participants and spectators. Whereas Sharon has expertly been attentive to detail and coordination with such departments as police, electrical, parks and recreation, and traffic, as well as managing volunteers and that important participant, Santa Claus. And whereas Sharon has made sure that whether in sunshine, rain, sleet, snow, or high winds, the parade will go on. Now therefore, I, J.W. Widening, Mayor of the City of High Point, North Carolina, declare Monday, November 15th, 2021 as Sharon C. Smith Day. I encourage all to attend this year's edition of the Holiday Festival Parade on Sunday, November 21st at 3 p.m. in downtown High Point.
Okay, thank you, Sharon.
We're all hoping there'll be good weather for the parade this year. I've been in them when they're warm and when they're freezing cold, and even though it's not very holiday-like, I prefer warm. All right. First on the agenda tonight are the Finance Committee items, and for that portion of the agenda, I will turn the meeting over to the Mayor Pro Tem, Britt Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. We did meet at our regular appointed time, heard from staff, all the presentations, answered all the questions. So in front of you tonight, we do have a consent agenda and then one item under our regular agenda. To begin with, I want to present the consent agenda item as a motion to be approved.
Second. I got it. There's a motion and a second on the floor to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approval of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes.
Under our regular agenda items is item 2021-497, and read into the record, resolution of the City Council of the City of High Point, North Carolina, directing the application to the Local Government Commission for approval of Combined Enterprise System Revenue Refunding Bonds, requesting Local Government Commission approval and certain related matters. This item was presented to Finance Committee on a regular meeting, but it must be voted on individually. And here to explain a little bit more is Bobby Fitzjohn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. That was excellent reading. I know that's a long resolution title. Essentially, as part of our planning process for issuing new GEO and water sewer bonds in the spring, our financial advisors took a look at some debt that will not be eligible to refund at a tax-exempt basis, just look for alternatives. And one of those alternatives is issuing taxable bonds with directly to a bank with a clause that we can refund at a tax-exempt rate at a later date, so when the bonds actually become callable. It's a unique situation based on the 2017 tax law that keeps us from doing advanced tax-exempt refundings, but it allows us to take advantage of today's low interest rates. All in, this will give us the first step in the process to issue 2021A and 2021B revenue bonds. And for those of you not familiar, that's our water and sewer revenue bonds. We use them to fund capital projects and capital improvements into the system. The 2021A issuance will save the city $142,000 a year through 2032, which is the retirement of the initial debt that's being refunded. And it'll save, the 2021B refunding will save the city $148,000 through fiscal year 40. And that goes into the models that we use to determine water sewer rates. So up to nearly $300,000 in savings, a total of $4.4 million in cash flow savings just from this direct bank refunding.
Thank you, Bobby. Any comments or questions for Bobby?
Good job.
Yes, we appreciate that. Appreciate you looking after those things are sometimes complicated. Probably even more complicated than just reading them. So
Absolutely.
So we thank you for that, and with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve item 2021-497.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion for approval and multiple seconds. Is there any discussion on this item? I'll just say thank you for your work and the work of our finance staff. It's very easy to spend money and hard to save it. Yeah. And so, but this is a way of saving the taxpayers a lot of money over the next 10 years or so, and all of that helps. So, thank you for your work.
Good job, guys.
Anyone else? Okay. All those in favor of approval of this item, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes.
That's all for finance, Mayor.
Thank you. For those listening online, Councilman Chris Williams is a little under the weather and he's not with us tonight. Normally he handles the Community Development Committee items, but in his stead, the Community Development Committee items will be handled by Councilmember Wesley Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have 3 items on the agenda tonight, starting with 2021-499, an ordinance to demolish 1221 Franklin Avenue, and I'll turn over to Lori Loosemore.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. The first case, let's see if this is working, we have tonight, is 1221 Franklin Avenue. We had originally inspected this property on January 7th of 2019. We had observed the dwelling that was unsecured and made an inspection. We held a hearing on January 27th of 2021 that no one appeared for. We issued an order on the same day with the compliance date of March 4th, 2021. We'd not heard from anyone. They've not made any applications for permits. The inspector did speak with the owner prior to the hearing, and the owner stated he would be hiring contractors the following week, and he hoped to have the house completed in 8 months. The inspector explained that an order would be issued and that the repairs would need to begin soon. I'd scheduled this property to bring before you all on August 2nd, and the owner submitted a plan to us that they would begin repairs and have them completed within 12 months. They did apply for a permit, and the permit was not issued due to non-payment. And then on 10/18, we met, the inspector and I both met with a prospective buyer for the property to discuss the repairs. And when I checked this on November 4th, the property still had not been sold. Mr. Tejada did email me and call me on November 9th after they got the notice for the council meeting and had asked for additional time for them to make repairs, which I declined that and stated that he did have the opportunity to appear here to talk to you all tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Loosemore. Any questions from council? Is anyone here to represent or to speak about this case? Yes. You can approach it. Fine. Please state your name and your address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Edis Tejada. My wife, Aurelis Tejada. This property, we bought it in 2019, and was our first house. Also, it's the only house we own. We bought it with to Sundo investments and also to live in that property. But the circumstance, after we bought it, we really was in bad shape to make enough money for fix that property. At this moment, we're not ready to fix. We have in contract already for sale. With some issues, well, the IRS on taxes, was a mistake, and they put a lien on the property. That's why we cannot complete the sales of the property. Already talked to the IRS, they sent me a letter, I don't receive it yet. So what they say, I don't own any money to them. That's what I'm waiting for to complete the process of sale of this property. If I cannot sell, I asked the city council, so I need more time, at least I can start work on it, if I can sell the property. The time, I don't know. I just wait for the letter for the IRS so I can complete my stuff. That's what I asked for, more time.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
Mr. Tejada, how much time are you asking? How much time do you think would be reasonable if council was to grant you additional time? Would you be able to begin repairs on this house?
If we don't sell, I said the property before the end of the year, I recommend at least 6 more months to June.
What was that?
To June to 2022. 6 more months, if we don't sell it. It's on the contract, still on the contract, just waiting for the IRS documents. With the lien was removed from the property.
So you do have a potential buyer?
Oh, yes, it is. It's on the contract right now.
When did you say you purchased the house?
In 2019.
So why didn't you go to the hearing for this in January of 2021?
I missed that day. Unfortunately, I don't.
There was a hearing held January 27th, 2021, and no one attended that hearing. So why didn't you go to the hearing?
I not received that letter. I will. If I saw that letter, I'll be here in front of you.
The inspector spoke, it says here in our report, the inspector spoke with you on the 25th of January, just prior to the hearing. And you said you'd be hiring contractors, but that was 2 days before the hearing. You didn't go to the hearing?
Yes, I spoke with 2 contractors already, but we not do the contract because the prices they showed to me was too high for me at that moment.
Okay.
So, Councilman Moore, you have a signed contract for a potential buyer or a verbal commitment?
No, I'm sorry, we have this, the signed contract
The
already.
contract, yeah.
And does that contract have a unending offer? Or does the contract have offers good
Honest-
for how long?
Yeah, we have an offer, and we're just waiting to close because the letter of the IRS, we didn't receive it yet. And after we received the letter from here, they say the house was in the problem, we didn't only receive this letter, we not receive no other letters. We received one letter, they say they were doing graffiti to the house, we clean it. We received another letter saying the ground was too high, we clean it. All those streets that are on top of the house, we already cut it. We cleaned the whole property. It's not look the way it is on the picture right now. Inside, we broom, we take a lot of garbage that was inside. We're trying to keep the house, and we speak to the neighbor next to, we give the number to our number in case they see anything to call us, because we live in Burlington, we don't live here. So,
Okay. And you're communicating with the IRS how? By
Yes.
letter, by email?
yes, we did. We called in, and they say there was a mistake on the letter.
You
They
got
don't.
an answer?
Yes.
Did
we-
you?
Yes, yes. I know, it was hard. We spent like 3 days in getting in contact with them. And they say they sent a letter to us, but we didn't receive it yet.
Okay.
Any other questions?
This is Councilman Johnson. When was the last time you did speak with the IRS? And they told you that they had sent the letter?
Thursday was 1 week.
1 week
Last
ago?
Thursday, yeah.
Okay.
They sent it through, they said it's a letter come through Ohio State, from Ohio. That's all I waited for. That was the second time I asked for that letter.
Okay. Thank you.
So these photos are current? Has any
No.
changes been made since these photos?
Yeah, inside is not like that. It's clean and it's not.
Well, it's nothing fixed, like, the roof is not fixed, but we clean the house. We cut the tree outside, we cover the graffiti outside, we paint it. And when we clean inside, we take, a lot of dirt that was inside, and we try to clean a little bit. And we lock the windows, and we lock the doors. Because it was like, the neighborhood kind of, a lot of people was like getting in the back of the house with using drugs or something like that. So, when we went, we found somebody sleeping on the back, not inside the house, on the back. So we clean all the tree, and all the tree we cover it, because it was like it's a street on the back where people walk through the house. So what we did, we cut all those trees and we covered that. We put a tree on the back so people don't cross. It was like a street that was making through the house too, and it's hard for us because we don't live here. And we work, like 10 hours a day. So when we receive that letter, we come. Now the neighbor call us, we come. I mean, and I told the neighbor, I don't want my house to be problem to your house because, I don't want that. And they, they was agree. They say they see anybody in there, they're gonna call me and they're gonna tell them to leave. So, I mean, we're trying. I mean, I want to keep it, but we don't have the money to fix it right now.
Any other questions?
Just in terms of timeline, this was purchased late 2019, right? So just before the pandemic? Just a few months, right?
Ms. Loosemore, you say a permit was applied for but not paid for, wasn't obtained. Is there a reason why you didn't finish the permit application?
Because in that moment, when my husband came, they spoke to somebody here, he said that he's gonna get a permit, but in the same week, we got the person who wanted to buy the house, and he made the offer to us, and we accept the offer. But in between, when like 3 days before we signed the contract, the person that he hired, they said there was something on the house, it was a lien that we don't even know. We don't even know, so we got on top of that, and we're still waiting for that letter. That's why we never paid for the permit, because we found somebody who's gonna, buy the house and fix it. And the person, he's a real estate company, it's a investment. So he had the money to fix it right away. I think he came here and he spoke to somebody about the house, and he was asking for some time to fix it too. Because we told him everything about what's going on with the house.
Okay. Any further questions?
A question for Lori. Just as in the past, when we have these situations, if we approve the ordinance, and they communicate with you that they've received this notice from the IRS and they've cleared up a few things, let's say the next 30 days before demolition occurs, would you be able to stay that demolition to allow that transfer of ownership to the new buyer?
I think what I would probably actually prefer is to maybe put this in pending for 30 days. Nothing's ever been mentioned to us about an IRS lien. We did not find an IRS lien when we did our check. And so we'll amend my recommendation to put it 30 days in pending to give us an opportunity to find out about the IRS lien and if they get the letter and how soon. And then if it was the previous gentleman we met with, he did state he would make the repairs, and we have no reason not to believe him, and we'd give him the opportunity. And then that way, if he does make the repairs and the sale goes through, we would just not have the ordinance recorded. I think it'd probably be easier that way.
So we can verify that there was someone interested in purchasing?
There was, and he did come in and meet with us, and then we've not heard anything since that, and that was back October 18th.
Any further questions? Is there anyone else in the room here to speak on this? If not, how much time do you want? 1 month, 6 weeks?
I would just say 30 days in
30
pending,
days.
and I'll report back.
Okay, then I will make a motion to place this item in pending until our second December meeting.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to place the item in pending until our second meeting in December. Is there any discussion on that motion?
I'll email you.
Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approval of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously, and the item will be placed in pending.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our
Thank
next
you.
item is 1834 Willard Road, 2021-500.
The property at 1834 Willard Road, we had received a complaint about the house. We went and,
I am here for Willard Road.
okay. Hold on 1 second and I'll
Thank you.
finish. Okay. So we made an inspection on April 10th of 2018, held a hearing on January 27th of 2021. This is air property, so we had to advertise in the paper. No one appeared for the hearing. We issued an order to repair or demolish with a compliance date of March 3rd, 2021. On 10/18/2021, Barry Kinley contacted the inspector stating he had a buyer for the property, and he requested additional time to get the deed in order to be able to sell. This is another case I'd planned to bring, and then I postponed it due to their request. And then the fire department notified us that a fire occurred on the property on 10/29/21. So due to that, I decided to still go ahead and bring it, just on the off chance. I mean, I would think the house is probably not going to be repaired, so one way or another, if they sell it, the new owner can demolish it, or if we decide to give them more time. But I guess this is Mr.
Are there any
Kinley?
questions for Ms. Loosemore before we? I assume you're the owner.
I can speak now. My name is Barry Kinley, and I'm speaking here for the reference to demolition of 1834 Willard Road. I thought I had this house, this acre and a quarter of that house sold. Of course, there was a fire, as you can see, and of course, naturally, the people are coming back and wanting to renegotiate. And I'm talking to 3 other people that are interested. Of course, no one's interested in anything but the acre and a quarter. So I'm here today to request that you give me an extension of 30 days to give me time to get it either sold or to get it demolished. I mean, I definitely want to get it demolished, but naturally, I don't want to incur any more costs than I have to. And the other problem I had with getting it sold, I had 25 people that had to sign off. Originally, that was a home that I was born and raised in up until I was 16. My dad built it, and my mom lived there until 87, and she passed, and some brothers and sisters Two brothers lived there for a short period of time. It's been vacant for 10 years. It should be vacated, and I'd like to get it vacated. I just want to hold off getting it demolished for 30 days or so until I can get it sold, or I will demolish it, getting the proper permits and what have you. That's my request.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from council?
Mr. Kinley, this is Councilman Jefferson. How are you? Good to see you. The fire on 10/29/2021, are you able to tell us a little bit more about that one?
I'm so sorry. I have a hearing loss. I apologize to you. I do not know what you said.
The fire on October 29th, are you able to give us more details about that?
What was the cause of the fire?
I am so sorry. I do not know what you said.
Mr. Kinley,
Pardon me?
What was the cause of the fire?
It's unknown. There was speculation, and that's all I have. There was no insurance, of course, on the property. A couple of neighbors, they gave me some speculation, and probably that they'd seen a certain individual going in, since no one lived there, in and out. And I said, well, why didn't you call me? You know, I didn't want anyone going into the property until we could get it sold. And the reason it hasn't been sold 10 years ago, I had 25 people that had to sign off. There was originally 10 children, and I'm one of 10, and of six are predeceased. So there's only 4, and then I've got nieces and nephews and what have you to contend with. And they finally all came to the table and agreed to put their John Henry on their signature. And then the fire came. And I just want some time to do that.
I have a question. So have you priced out how much it would cost you to have it demolished?
Have I found out how
Have you
much?
found out how much it would cost you to have it demolished?
Somewhere in the area, and I got this information from the gentleman that I spoke to today that was going to buy it. Of course, he was buying it for the land for $17,500, but he tells me that it would probably run somewhere in the area of course, he's negotiating down $10,000 to probably demolish the structure and haul everything away.
And would anyone in your family be willing to help with that expense? Anybody in your family willing to help with that expense to get it demolished?
Well, ma'am, I don't know how to answer that question because I'm not totally sure.
Okay.
I've been paying the taxes on it for the past 10 years. I feel sure that some of them would, but rest assured, if I'm told to demolish it, I'm going to go out and try to find someone that's bonded that will do it, and we'll take it down because I feel like I can probably get it done for less money than what this gentleman that was backtracking with me.
With the city, do we have an estimate of how much it would cost the city to demolish this house?
How much did?
I'm asking Ms. Loosemore, what's the estimate for the city to demolish it?
Oh, okay, I don't know.
Not at this time. We don't have an inspection, any type of
Okay.
a bid put out for it. Just based on previous bids we've received, it would probably be in the ballpark from $7,000 to $10,000. The biggest variable is whether there's asbestos in the house, which now has been burned, so that probably the whole house will have to be treated.
Okay.
That it contains asbestos, so it probably will drive the cost up a little bit.
So, Mr. Kinley, my big concern is that it looks like a huge hazard. I mean,
Right.
so, and, you know, I don't know what expense you would incur to have it protected. So I'm thinking that the sooner you demolish it, the better off you'll be, because if somebody gets hurt in there, they can sue you.
Right,
That's just my thoughts.
right.
But I hate that that's happened.
Well, of course, I'll assure you, I'll go to work on trying to get bids to take it down. because it's gonna have to be taken down. But, that's why I asked for 30 days to do that.
Yeah. And like Victor said on the other one, if we approve to have it demolished, you still have about 30 days to figure out. You know,
Right.
I know Ms. Loosemore will work
Okay.
with you, so, I don't know what everybody's going to say, but
Okay.
it does seem like a big hazard to me.
Okay.
It's just my thought.
Well, I mean, surely I can find someone that'll take it down within 30 days and clear it all. Does that also, I guess I should ask you, does it also include the smokehouse? Do you know?
If we put it out for bid, the demolition would be any and all structures on that property.
Okay.
Councilmember Peters.
Well, thank you for your consideration, so whatever you decide,
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
I would appreciate it.
The problem is, if you adopt an ordinance, then you will have to come back and rescind it. So that's why it was a good idea to put the other one in pending until the 20th of
Yeah.
December, the second meeting in December. So that might be something that you would like to desire.
Well, no, I was thinking not putting in pending. I think what Victor was trying to say is even when we do approve a demolition, it doesn't happen overnight.
You're absolutely
Right,
right.
okay,
It generally
okay.
is around 30 days.
Okay.
But the other thing is if you are willing and ready, and Ms. Loosemore is willing to recommend that you guys give him 30 days to go ahead and do it himself, I would recommend you not adopt an ordinance so that you don't have to deal with that second agenda item on the 20th of December.
I would rather deal with the second agenda item and get the clock ticking so we can get this thing safer. My statement would be that the whole reason we get rid of blighted properties in the cities is houses like this, where someone apparently was hanging out doing something there and caused a fire. This could be somebody's neighborhood kids, it could be whatever, and that's an unsafe property here in this city, and that's why we have to demolish these properties if you don't. I do hope you can find somebody to demo it, because civilian side's always cheaper than the government spending money to get it done, so I encourage you to do that, but I would be in favor of approving the ordinance. I'm fine with rescinding it if he complies and gets it done, but we got to get that clock ticking, because that's dangerous.
Please relate to me what he's saying.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance.
I mean, I need to know.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve the ordinance. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the ordinance, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our final item is 2021-501, which is demolition of 2429 West Green Street, which is the restaurant for Travel Inn Express. Excuse me.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. We're here tonight to request an ordinance, to adopt an ordinance to demolish 2429 West Green, which is the Traveling Express Restaurant. Where's that located on?
Oh, just the restaurant, that's right.
We'll show you the restaurant. The pictures. Which one? 24? Yes, the agenda. The agenda is the pictures. Go back out of that. The agenda right here. Council agenda right there. Third one, yeah, that one. This restaurant building was constructed in 1962. We flew a drone above it, and it appears that if a roof's ever been replaced on it, it would be surprising. We're trying to get the pictures up here. Here they are. The steel pan is rusted out on the restaurant. Water pours in from the roof. Unfortunately, his office, Mr. Khan's office, is also attached to this building. The building is owned by Mr. Harris Khan, LLC. We condemned this in November of last year. We sent a letter out immediately for the condemnation. We met with Mr. Khan in February, and we gave him till June to have the roof replaced. No action was taken. We said we wanted a building permit by June, and we wanted a roof repaired in July. He has met with us and told us it was too expensive to repair the roof. So we told him in a meeting that we would get bids to demolish the building. He could get bids and we could compare the bids. We did get a bid for $30,000. That would take the entire restaurant down, including his office. He told me on the phone that he also had gotten some bids, but he never would give us the name of the people bidding or any numbers. So we're requesting an ordinance to take the building down. That would include his office. We have given him the option to come up with a plan to save his office, but yet we haven't gotten any feedback from Mr. Khan on how he plans to do that or what figures are out there. That $30,000 does not include asbestos abatement. That would be additional, but our price was $30,000. So we're requesting an ordinance to demolish the building, and if you have any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
A question for Greg Ferguson. This was one of the properties that we had on our list last year, the Public Safety Committee, correct?
Any other questions? If not, I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance 2021-501.
Second.
Motion and a second. Before we act on that motion, is the owner here, or anybody like to speak on this item? Okay. Hearing none, are there any comments or questions from City Council on the item? Okay. All those in favor of approval of the ordinance, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously.
That's all we have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
There is a public hearing item for amendment to the 2019-2020 action plan. Are we dealing with that? Yes. Okay. So there's one more thing, Mr. Hudson.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
You're right. 2021-502, there's a public hearing on our amendment to the 2019-20 action plan.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. We have before you the substantial amendment or a substantial amendment to the 2019-2020 annual action plan for community development. This proposal is to fund 1 year of the Winter Shelters White Flag Initiative. The 3 agencies that would be partnering with us in this are Open Door Ministries, the Salvation Army, and West End Ministries. The proposal that you received in your packet was actually a longer-term proposal, and those agencies will be coming back before possibly the Finance Committee because they do want to seek some additional funding in future years. But because this is in line with the purpose and the mission for the CV or CARES Act funds, we're recommending that that first year of funding be provided from the funds that community development received through the CARES Act. We initially allocated the $588,651 that we received under CDBG CV3 to a public facilities project, or we have not identified a project, but we did allocate the funds for that type of activity. And so we're asking to reallocate $162,850 of those funds to fund this, the Winter Shelters White Flag Initiative. The draft proposal was made available for public review for 5 days. Under the CARES Act, the normal requirement for 30 days for a 30-day public review and comment period was waived, and so we could do that within 5 days. And it was made available to the public for the period of October 25th through the 29th, and we did not receive any public comments or any feedback on the proposal. The substantial amendment was reviewed with the Citizens Advisory Council on October 28th, and it was reviewed with the Community Development Committee on November 2nd. Both of those committees and councils, they did propose approval or recommended approval for this substantial amendment. So we are asking for that a public hearing be held, and after the public hearing, we are asking that council take action on this proposal. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Is this to schedule the public hearing or to have the public hearing?
We're asking that the public hearing be held tonight. We have advertised and
All right,
appropriately.
And I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak for or against this item? If not, then I will close public hearing. Is there a representative from Open Door or Leslie's House or Salvation Army here tonight? I just want to recognize you and say thank you for the program that you do. If not, I'll still say thank you for the programs that you all do. And with that, I will make a recommendation to, or we'll make a motion to approve 2021-502.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve this item. Is there any discussion among the councilmen?
Not any discussion in favor or against, but to the comments of Councilman Hudson. They came in and spoke at our committee, I think it was last week or the week before. It was a fantastic effort in which there was clear collaboration amongst these agencies, and that's always incredible on the part as well from our staff here at the city and everything they've done to work with them. Everything we keep hearing from everyone is that all of our boats are rowing in the right direction on issues such as housing and homelessness. And it gives me all the confidence in the world for everything that we'll accomplish over the next several years to continue to move the needle on that issue.
Anyone else?
There's a very nice article in the paper today about this initiative, if you'd like to read it.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of approval of the ordinance, approval of the amendment to the action plan, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously.
That is all now, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right. I'll be handling the planning and development items. The first item on there is a resolution of intent to establish a public hearing date of December 6, 2021, to consider a voluntary contiguous annexation of approximately 1.46 acre parcel located on the north side of Willard Road, approximately 220 feet east of White Farm Lane. Property is addressed as 2405 Willard Road and also known as Guilford County Tax Parcel 195739, and I move for approval of that item. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second for approval of the resolution of intent. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? That motion passes. We now have numerous items for public hearing. I know that the vast majority of the folks here are probably here concerning these public hearing items. I want to lay out some ground rules and kind of explain to you how this happens. First, what will happen is that the council will hear from our staff, who will give a presentation of their staff report. After that, whoever is the applicant or the applicant's representative will have an opportunity to speak and present their items. And then the hearing will be put to the floor, and anyone who would like to come forward and speak will have an opportunity to do that. I have some folks who have signed up to speak at the public hearing on the various items, and I'll call those names first. If you didn't sign up, you'll still have an opportunity to speak. When your opportunity arises, please come forward to the lectern, give us your name and your address so that we can put that, the clerk can put that in our record. And then I would ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. Okay, we have a timer on the wall. I'd ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. The exception to that would be if you're someone here who is speaking for a group of people, I'll agree to give you a little extra time if you're speaking for more than one person. And if you'll just ask me when you come forward, let me know. That doesn't mean you get half an hour or 45 minutes. Please remember that you have other people who would like to speak and be respectful of their time. And I'm sure nobody's going to get angry or raise their voice or get unruly or anything like that. But that's why I have my gavel, and that's why we have police in the back of the room. And but I'm sure we're all going to get along just fine. So with that, the first item on the agenda is item 2021-473, which is a resolution for Shamrock PD LLC in the city of High Point for a plan amendment. Although I'm sure we're also going to discuss the annexation cases and zoning map amendments that go along with it. So with that, I will turn the meeting over to our staff person, Heidi Galante.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Prior to making our presentation, I have a few items of information that I'd like to share with you. Agenda items 473 through 475, item 504 and 506 are all related, and we will be making a presentation together. Herb, Shannon, and myself will be making those presentations. It is staff's understanding that the applicant would like to request a continuance to the December 6th City Council meeting, but staff recommends that we give our presentation this evening and allow for public comment. The applicant is still working on conditions, so if you do vote to continue, we recommend that you keep the public hearing open to that December 6th meeting. And finally, staff is asking that item 475 be withdrawn because it has been combined with item 506. The applicant is present if you would like to hear from them about the continuance and the request for withdrawal.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Mr. Mayor, Tom Terrell with the law firm Fox Rothschild representing Shamrock PD. Dennis Bunker is here with that project tonight. I do wish to confirm that we will be dismissing item number 2120 that has been merged into another application because we had some staggered applications coming in on this. I also would like to confirm that we do wish, as we had said in an email previously, to continue the decision, but since we did not have the opportunity to communicate that with the public, I think it's only fair to continue and hear from the public this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Terrell. Ms. Galante, how do you exactly want to handle this? Do you want us to go ahead and vote on the item 21-20 to go ahead and take that off?
And withdraw that because it is combined, yes.
And then, okay, well, let's go ahead and do that, and then I'll come back to you. Don't run off. All right. So item zoning map amendment 21-20, we're going to, what is the exact wording you're looking for?
Withdraw.
We're going to withdraw that item as it has been combined with the zoning map amendment 21-23. Did I state that correctly?
Correct.
Okay, so I will make a motion then to withdraw that zoning map amendment 21-20. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a second by the Mayor Pro Tem. Is there any discussion on, everybody understand what we're doing and why? Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of removal of zoning map amendment 21-20, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Okay, that motion carries unanimously. All right, so now do we want to do the staff report and then open the public hearing?
Madam Attorney, should they continue now or wait until later to continue the items?
That is completely up to the mayor as the chair.
Let's go ahead and have the staff report, and then if the applicant wants to go ahead and speak tonight, that's fine. If they want to wait, if the continuance happens and they want to wait and do it then, that's fine as well. But Mr. Terrell, you're going to wait?
Yeah, the applicant will wait, yes.
Okay, the applicant will wait.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes?
Quick question. With us waiting to hear them next month, is there any harm in waiting to hear the staff report next month?
There is no harm. What is your preference, Ms. Galante?
My only concern is you may have some public here that's already here, so you may want to hear.
Well, I'm going to open the floor to the public regardless.
Okay. It's it may be easier if they hear the presentation.
Yeah, let's go ahead and have the staff presentation. The way I'll choose to handle it is we'll hear the staff presentation. The applicant has declined to speak tonight. They'll speak if it's continued, and then the public will be allowed to speak. And I'm going to hold the public hearing open until the case is brought back in December. And then that way, if there's been changes in it or whatever, we can hear from staff again, and the applicant will present at that time. And if there are any additional people who didn't get to speak or would like to respond to changes, we can even hear from the public again as well. Okay. All right. Well, then let's hear the staff report.
Okay, so staff will be giving staff presentations on the plan amendment, 2 annexations, and zoning map amendment 21-23. The first request is to amend the land use plan for approximately 41 acres located on the southeast corner of West Wendover Avenue and Penny Road from office and medium-density residential to community regional commercial. The community regional commercial classification supports a wide range of retail and service uses, intended to serve the community and nearby regional centers. The amendment, the subject property is outlined with a black dash. The area shown in blue on the map represents office. Brown represents medium-density residential. The area to the east and south shown in yellow represents low-density residential. The area to the north and west shown in red represents community regional commercial. The area shown with the yellow and purple hatch is mixed-use development, and the gray area shown diagonally across the intersection is institutional land use classification. The land uses in this area are: to the north is the Palladium Shopping Center, to the east and south is the Nottingham residential subdivision and 5 single-family homes along Samet Drive. To the west is Wendover Crossing Shopping Center, and diagonally across the intersection is the Deep River Friends Meeting House. Staff reviewed the applicant's request and noted that the Community Growth Vision Statement, the Land Use Plan, and the West Wendover Avenue Guilford College Road Corridor Plan are relevant to this request. These policies recognize the importance of the appearance of key gateways into the community as they provide a first and last impression of the community. The policies encourage large retail uses to locate at key street intersections, and they encourage growth in an orderly fashion. This area has been designated as office and medium-density residential since 1992, and there have been 2 similar plan amendments to the north and west in 2001 and 2003. Staff recommends approval of the request to change the future land use designation for approximately 41 acres to the Community Regional Commercial Land Use Classification. The request meets the goals and objectives of the Community Growth Vision Statement, the Land Use Plan, and the West Wendover Avenue Guilford College Road Corridor Plan, and it will be in harmony with the land use pattern of the surrounding area. The Planning and Zoning Commission met on September 28th and favorably recommended this request by a vote of 6-0. Do you have any questions of me on the plan amendment before I turn it over to Herb for the annexation and zoning? Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. Herb Shannon, Senior Planner with the Planning and Development Department, and I will be providing you a summary of the annexations and zonings related to lands at this southeast corner of this intersection of West Wendover Avenue and Penny Road. There are 2 annexation cases associated with this request. Annexation case 21-06, and that's the land area associated with that, and annexation case 2108. In total, it's approximately 34.7 acres. There are separate applications as all the parcels for annexation were not submitted at the same time. And there also was a concern of making sure the annexation requests meet state statutes regarding satellite annexations of parcels within a platted subdivision. As you can see from the map, this is basically a donut hole. Lands at this southeast corner, surrounding areas all within the city of High Point. So staff has reviewed this request and determined that this is a logical progression of the city's annexation policies, as since the 1990s, lands at this intersection have been annexed, and the applicant is requesting annexation to have access to city utilities for a commercial development. And staff has no objections with this request, and if approved, it would not negatively affect the city's ability to provide city services. That is for annexation 2106 and annexation 2108. In regards to the rezoning request, case 2123, the applicant is requesting to establish initial city zoning for this land area. They have requested a conditional zoning retail center district. Due to the intensity of proposed development, a traffic impact analysis was required. The executive summary of that analysis is part of your staff report. That analysis noted that a commercial development of approximately 160,000 square feet is proposed, with multifamily uses between 180 to 360 units as a possible additional use. In conjunction with this application, the applicant has provided a conditional zoning ordinance in which they've offered conditions pertaining to permitted uses. They've also restricted some uses. There are also standards regarding development dimensional requirements, landscaping, screening and buffing, and various transportation conditions. Very briefly, the adopted policy guidance documents governing this area would be the land use plan, the West Wendover Avenue Corridor Plan, and conditions established from previous commercial developments. Specifically, to the north, you have the shops at Deep River and the Palladium commercial developments, and to the west, the Wendover Landings commercial developments. Zoning and development conditions from the surrounding area have established standards regarding development meeting higher standards of the Eastchester Gateway Corridor District, prohibiting and restricting certain districts along the perimeter of the roadways, and ensuring compatibility with the historic Friends meeting facility as far as architectural standards, as far as similar facade materials. Also, those various adjacent zoning had specific transportation conditions that limit the number of access points. All that was taken into consideration with the evaluation of this proposal, and staff would offer the following for the council's consideration. As far as compatibility with the surrounding area, as conditioned, the applicant has proposed higher architectural design standards at the northwestern corner opposite the historic site, and the zoning request will provide for similar higher standards to ensure compatibility. Also, as conditions, various standards of the Gateway Corridor are proposed for the site, and the applicant has agreed to those conditions. That will ensure development will be consistent with the established zoning and development pattern of this area. As far as impacts on adjacent property owners, you can see the property does abut the Nottingham subdivision to the southeast. The applicant, and also there are some existing single-family homes to the southwest along Summit Drive. The applicant has offered conditions that if the rear of structures, commercial structures, face those single-family homes along Summit Drive, that there will be a higher architectural or landscaping standards. They've also offered conditions to address the approximate 17,500 daily trips as far as limiting the number of access points and road improvements. Finally, the key issue is that this proposal will promote a preferred development pattern. Adopted policy guidance documents, including the land use plan, the Wendover Corridor Plan, have established policy along with the prior zoning approvals, and as conditioned, the proposed conditional zoning RC district will assist to ensure this preferred development pattern, which has been established through prior zoning approvals. Thus, staff is recommending approval of the proposed conditional zoning RC district. This item was reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission at their October 26th public hearing. The commission recommended approval by a vote of 8-1. At that meeting, there was quite a bit of discussion about a few last-minute transportation-related conditions. The applicant and the Transportation Department are still working on those items. You do have included in your staff report the conditions offered by the applicant, and to ensure that you can see what the Transportation Department was proposing, what the applicant's proposing. The applicant's new language is highlighted for your consideration. And I believe they're still working with the Transportation Department on finalizing those final items. The Planning and Zoning Commission stated that the request is consistent with adopted policy guidance because the proposed CZRC district is supported by adopted policy guidance documents, including the land use plan. The commission also noted that the request is reasonable and in the public interest because, as conditioned, the requested CZRC district would be similar and compatible with previous conditional zonings granted in this area. That is a brief summary of the staff report. Are there any questions for Mr. Galante or myself on the plan amendment or the rezoning for this area?
Anyone have questions?
Is, how will we be, you talked about, this Councilman Moore, you talked about the discussions continuing concerning the transportation. How will we be kept abreast of where that is? Will that come back to us in a final form on December the 6th?
Yeah, the applicant has requested that a continuance. Staff will continue to work with the applicant to try and finalize those items. Regardless, you will receive the most updated information at your December 6th meeting.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you very much. Before we continue, I have one little announcement of news that's come over the wire. The Guilford County Board of Commissioners, acting as the County Board of Health, has rescinded the mask mandate effective immediately. So if you want to take your mask off, you can. All right. Pause for celebration. Okay, so now we'll, as was stated before, the applicant has decided they'll speak at the continued meeting session. So there was one person who signed up, Maria Montoya, had signed up to speak. Maria, now's your opportunity if you'd like to come forward and speak on this item. And anyone else who'd like to speak on this item can come forward after Ms. Montoya.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the. Oh, this is very emotional for me. So, it's been a long road. So I just want to come over here, let you know, and to the public, and some of my neighbors may be here from Nottingham, that. Oh, my name is, of course, Maria Montoya, and 5225 West Wendover. I forgot to tell you that. I have lived there for 26 years. But I'm here to ask for your help. This process has not been going just for 2 years. It's been going on for 12 years. We started almost 13 years ago with the first contract. 4 contracts, now the 5th contract, 5 developers. And as you heard, it's a place that the city wants to develop. Everybody wants this to happen. It's good for the city, it's good taxes, jobs, and you will hear all the numbers. But yet, I stand here after 12 years, and it's still going on. So I ask myself, why? How can this happen? What is really happening here? And I ask you guys to figure it out, because it makes no sense. It makes no sense to me, and it can't be making any sense to you guys. I mean, so it seems to me like it always bottlenecks on the road. You guys came to us and asked us to help with the road because it's a road that is needed. It's needed for Nottingham. I mean, they are seeing some traffic increase from people cutting through their neighborhood. It's a road that is really needed if you see the traffic count in Penny Road and Wendover. So, but what has happened is that somehow we got stuck on 20 years ago. And we expect all the conditions that happen across the road. Well, that can't happen economically. We were in a different time. This is a time that we need to work together. I mean, I reduced the price on my property. My property went down in value. But I understand that it needs to happen. It's good for everybody, for the neighbors. I mean, I have a neighbor that passed away and never got to enjoy the money of his house. He had to move out and see it vandalized. And so I ask you guys, why? I went after 4 contracts. I handpicked Dennis, who's been my friend for 35 years. I begged, I pleaded, because nobody wants to do this project. It's crazy. You know, the land doesn't help itself. It's a big hole. I mean, it is a very expensive project, and it's too small to bear the cost that the city wants to implement or ask for. So I don't know what to tell you guys. You need to decide. Do you want this road? Do you really want this road? Because you guys have to make it happen. We're here for you. We elected you. Make it happen. It's just make everybody work together. We all have to give in a bit. We're in a hard time. These are hard times. And we are not going to get another developer this dedicated and with this much patience. I mean, and that is so honest about everything. And how hard has he worked? I mean, he's probably getting, at the end of the road, he's not going to make enough money to make it worthwhile. I feel guilty because I was the one that talked him into it. But let's stop the nonsense. I have put in my 5 cents. You guys need to do that. You guys need to investigate why is this not happening and stop this nonsense. That's what we elected you for, because I'm at the end of my road. I've lost my patience. It is affecting my health. I am done. If this doesn't happen, you will not see me here again. You will see me somewhere else. And I'm sorry, I'm not that type of person, but it's just, put yourself in my shoes. Who would withstand what we have withstood? No, nobody. Nobody in this room would. So don't do that to your citizens. And help really the city. I love this city. My children grew up over here. This is good economics for the city. So please, that's all I ask. Make it happen. It's in your hands.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mateo.
There's no one else who signed up to speak on this item. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on this item? Okay, hearing none. Madam Attorney, do you want us to go one by one on each of these cases to do the continuance?
No, that's not necessary.
Okay.
It's for the continuance to a date certain.
Okay. So the applicant has requested through our meeting on December 6th, is that correct? That's correct. Ms. Terrell? Okay, so I'm going to make the motion then to continue items 2021-473, 2021-474, 2021-505. What?
504.
504, I'm sorry, 2021-504, 2021-475.
No, that's
That's the one we got rid of.
That's the one we got rid of.
Let me start over. I'm going to make a motion to continue item 2021-473, 2021-474, 2021-504, 2021-506. I think that's it. To our meeting on December 6th. And I'm going to be holding the public hearing open until that evening. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Okay, that motion is approved unanimously. Okay, next item on the agenda is 2021-507. This is High Point University and Lily Pad Investors LLC, street abandonment case 21-02. And so for that, I'll turn the meeting back over to Herb Shannon.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. This is a request by High Point University to abandon the eastern 365 feet of the Barbie Avenue right-of-way. This is a public street that lies just south of the western entrance to the campus, just east of North Centennial Street. During the past decade, High Point University's campus has expanded south of International Avenue, which was previously Montague Avenue, to the north side of Barbie Avenue. There have been previous requests from the university to abandon multiple public streets in this area. Those are those areas that are highlighted in gray. Those are prior public streets that were abandoned. You have before you today an additional request to abandon the eastern segment of Barbie Avenue, the eastern 365 feet. The university owns land along both sides of this right-of-way. Thus, if abandoned, no one will be denied access to their property. As the campus has grown and the university expanded south of International Avenue, there's only one way out of this neighborhood, and that's to the west. Thus, there's no public use for this eastern portion of this right-of-way, and the applicant has requested abandonment. Staff has evaluated the request and is supporting this abandonment as no property owner will be abandoned or will have access denied. And this is with the condition that there be several easements reserved for stormwater, sanitary sewer, water, Piedmont natural gas easement, electrical easement, and North State easements. All of that are within that right-of-way. So those easements will be retained. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this request at their October public hearing and recommended approval. As far as layout, the area that's highlighted in the dark gray is where we had a previous abandonment, and a cul-de-sac was constructed by the university. They're proposing something similar where the eastern portion of this right-of-way, and I can point that out to you. Whoops. This area here, this portion is to be abandoned, and that cul-de-sac will be relocated to this area so that public trucks or trash, delivery trucks and so forth will have the ability to safely turn around. And staff is supporting this request as submitted to you by the Planning and Zoning Commission with the preservation of those various easements. Are there any questions of staff at this time? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shannon. Is there anyone here to speak in favor or against this item? And just give us your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Jason Sweet, 8807 Desmond Drive, Louisville. I'm here on behalf of High Point University and Lily Pad Investors, just to answer any questions that the council may have. Thank you.
Anyone with any questions for Mr. Sweet? Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this item? Okay, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. And I'll make a motion for approval of street abandonment case 21-02. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Peters. Any discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approval of this item, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Next item on the agenda is, there are three items, actually. This is the item pertaining to Johnson Street and Ski Club Road. There's a plan amendment case 21-02, zoning map amendment case 2118, and zoning map amendment 21-21. Before we begin, somebody's shaking their heads.
This is just for the plan amendment and zoning map amendment 21-18.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead, my fault. Yeah, sorry.
Plan amendment 2104 zoning.
There's a lot of stuff on here tonight, man. It is hard for me to keep up. Y'all bear with me. Two cases, plan amendment 21-04 and zoning map amendment 21-18. Now, my understanding for this one also is that our applicant has requested continuance, I believe, to December 20th. Is that correct? I'm seeing the applicant's attorney nodding his head, and yeah. So we're going to handle this one the same way we did the other one. We'll go ahead and have the staff report. Does the applicant wish to speak tonight, or would you rather wait until the 20th? You'd rather speak on the 20th? Okay. So it'll be same as the other one. We'll go ahead and hear the staff report. The applicant will reserve their right to speak until the 20th, and then I'll open the floor to the public to come forward and speak either for or against. And the public hearing will be held open until December 20th, presuming the council is amenable to continuing it till then. I presume that they are. So with that, we're going to go ahead and hear the staff report and proceed.
Excuse me, this is Councilman Moore, Mayor. Just a question for clarity for me. We've made a continuance on one applicant tonight, and we've been asked again. Just out of curiosity, when did the request for these continuances come in?
I believe one on the earlier case, I heard about that one towards the end of last week. I think they were both kind of towards the end of last week. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Andy Piper, planner with the City of High Point Planning and Development Department. Just to orient everyone to our location on the map, the requested amendment 2, the land use plan is for approximately 12.6 acres on the southeast corner of Johnson Street and Ski Club Road, which are both considered major thoroughfares. The site is 3 parcels currently developed with single-family detached homes, including one which is recognized as a Guilford County Historic Landmark property. The adjacent properties to the east and the south are also developed with single-family detached homes. Across Johnson Street to the west is a religious institution with a school, and across Skeet Club to the north are large lot residential properties and more rural in nature within unincorporated Guilford County. The site and the surrounding area, as you can see on this map, have a low-density residential land use plan classification. The applicant is requesting a change in that classification from low-density residential to local convenience commercial, which is intended for moderate-intensity convenience retail or service uses, generally serving small local neighborhoods. The surrounding area has developed with single-family dwellings and other uses such as churches that are consistent with the current low-density residential land use designation that has been in place since the mid-1980s. 2 townhome developments were approved further to the west along Skeet Club Road in the early 2000s, and a recent land use plan amendment and rezoning were approved in mid-August for the northwest corner of the intersection to accommodate additional moderate-density residential development. There are no land use policies supporting the establishment of commercial uses in the area. This was reinforced by evaluations done for the Johnson Street Sandy Ridge Road Area Plan in 2003 and the Northwest Area Plan in 2011, which replaced the former plan. Neither plan identified this intersection for commercial development. The applicant's request would introduce a commercial land use to an area that has not seen any type of commercial development anywhere in the immediate vicinity. To meet the needs of this growing residential area, there are significant commercial nodes already established at either end of Ski Club Road within approximately 3 miles of the site. In addition, the applicant's proposal to move the existing historic Mendenhall Blair house to another location on the site would remove it from its historic context, providing another reason to support keeping the current less intense residential land use designation. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the request because it will not be in harmony with the existing residential character of the surrounding area, and there are no policies supporting the establishment of commercial uses in this area. The Planning and Zoning Commission agreed with staff recommendation and voted 9-0 to recommend denial of the request at their October 26th meeting. And I'll be happy to answer any questions about the land use plan amendment before turning it over to Herb to present the rezoning request.
Any questions from anyone on the land use plan amendment?
I have a question. I'm sorry, Mr. Piper, I know you're probably not the one to be able to answer this. What's the current state of Blair Mendenhall?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
The current status of Blair Mendenhall House.
It's a Guilford County landmark property.
What's the current designation on that house?
Guilford County landmark, historic landmark property.
But it stops with the county. It does
It's
not have.
the county, correct. There's no national or local designation.
Thank you, Mr. Piper. Mr. Shannon?
Herb Shannon, again, Senior Planner with the Planning and Development Department, and I'll be providing you with a summary on the zoning portion of this request. That is zoning map amendment case 21-18. The applicant is requesting rezoning from the current residential single-family 3 or R3 zoning to a conditional zoning retail center district, and with a small segment of the site proposed for conditional zoning limited business. Included with this zoning map amendment is a conditional zoning ordinance offered by the applicant with conditions pertaining to permitted and prohibited uses, development and dimensional requirements. They've also offered landscaping and screening and site standard conditions, conditions pertaining to signage, building standards, right-of-way dedication, and transportation and access requirements. The zoning request has been submitted to support the development of a 65 to 75,000 square foot commercial use on the site with multiple outparcels. Due to the proposed traffic impact, A traffic impact analysis was required as a part of the zoning application. The applicant submitted that study, and that was reviewed and evaluated by the City Transportation Department. That information is in the back of your staff report as backup material, but the report notes that approximately 9,600 daily trips with over 400 AM and PM peak hour trips. Key items noted from the staff report: as Mr. Piper noted, the zoning site is located in a predominantly residentially developed portion of the city. These two corridors, Ski Club Road and Johnson Street, have been studied in various forms since the adoption of the land use plan, the current plan in 2003. That is it's been studied as part as the city's general watershed and watershed critical ordinance in the 1990s, as part of the airport overlay study and the adoption of the airport overlay district in 2003 and its update in 2011. It was also part of the Johnson Street Sandy Ridge Road area plan in 2003. And as Mr. Piper noted, that plan was replaced in 2011 with the Northwest Area Plan. I would also note land use policy has been set from numerous zoning approvals since the mid-1980s to 2021. Johnson Street and Sandy Ridge Road have had about 60 zoning cases that have established this as a predominantly residential area. And the current zoning pattern from the I-73 northward along Johnson Street to Bain Road is residential. Similar along Ski Club Road, except for the eastern and western terminus, all lands within that portion of the corridor are zoned with various residential zoning districts. The key issue that staff has noted regarding this request are, first, lack of compatibility with the land use plan and the proposed intensity of commercial development. When you review the land use plan, there are various goals and objectives, and you can pick various of those items to support your position regarding this request. Those in favor may note that the fact that it's at the intersection of two major thoroughfares, and Objective 8 of the land use plan speaks to stimulating more efficient use of land. And those in opposition may point out goal number 2 and Objective 8, which speak to development, enhancing, and preserving established neighborhoods, and the fact that this site is in a watershed critical area. The key factor the staff would note is that there's no current adopted policy guidance to support commercial land use and zoning at this specific intersection. The second key issue is the intensity of development. The applicant has noted that the majority of the site, there's a map of the site, that area in that teal color is proposed for conditional zoning RC, retail center. That area highlighted in purple, that's proposed for a conditional zoning limited business. The intensity of development is that the RC district is the most intensive commercial district lying outside the core city area. Examples of areas within the city with that district is the former High Point Mall, the shops at Deep River, and the Palladium development. The applicant has noted within their conditional zoning ordinance that they have proposed some tenants of the limited business district. A request to rezone the entire site, or if council desires to update the land use policy for this area, a request to rezone the entire site to the LB district should be considered if that is council's desire to change your land use policy for this area. The LB district is designed to accommodate low to moderate intensity office, retail, and personal service use. The applicant has noted restrictions to meet some of the LB standards, but this is not an LB district. The LB district restricts the entire site to a maximum of 50,000 square feet. Furthermore, the LB district would not allow major restaurants. That's a restaurant with a drive-through window, and the applicant's proposal would exceed that square footage and would allow that use that is not permitted in the LB district. So this is not a LB district. Key items that staff would note in the findings as far as compatibility of the surrounding area: approval of the requested conditional zoning RC district would enable commercial development inconsistent with the character of the surrounding area, and as such, that would set a policy as to the manner in which the other corners of this intersection could develop. As always, we look at, are there any mitigation efforts that have been proposed? The applicant has offered conditions for higher development standard to meet the retail use type. That is a higher standard for commercial development. They propose higher landscaping and screening standards next to the budding residential subdivision and require a minimal overall lot size of 10 acres to discourage strip development. They've also offered traffic impact conditions to address the findings of the traffic impact analysis, where they are restricting the location and number of access points to Ski Club Road and Johnson Street and providing turn lanes at those access points. As far as environmental issues, I would note this site is within the Oak Hollow Lake watershed critical area. As such, development would have to meet the requirements of the watershed ordinance. Finally, a key item was supporting change in the area. The current widening of Ski Club Road and the proposed future widening of Johnson Street, those have been long-range projects, and they were considered in the consideration of the Sandy Ridge Road Plan and the Northwest Area Plan. And both those plans, neither one supported any commercial uses at this intersection. Furthermore, there have been no changes in the type of development as far as zoning approval to support this intensity of commercial uses at this intersection. Thus, staff is recommending denial of the request to rezone to the conditional zoning RC and conditional zoning LB district. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this request at their October public hearing. They recommended denial by a vote of 9-0. I would note that because this request is being forwarded to you from the Planning and Zoning Commission with a recommendation of denial, it would require a 2/3 vote, majority vote of the council members present and voting to be approved. The commission stated that the request is not consistent with adopted policy guidance because the land use plan and other adopted policy guidance documents do not support establishment of commercial uses at the intensity proposed by the applicant at this location. The commission also noted that the request is not reasonable in the public interest because the RC district accommodates high-intensity retail serving a regional area and would not be in the public interest to establish commercial development of this intensity in a predominantly low-density residential area as classified by the land use plan. I would note the council, as always, when you have a zoning request, you must place in the official record a statement of consistency. You have the statement being forwarded to you by the Planning and Zoning Commission, but council also has the opportunity to adopt its own statement. That is a summary of the zoning request. Are there any questions for Mr. Piper on the plan amendment or myself regarding the zoning request?
Yes, this is Councilmember Holmes, Mr. Shannon. As we consider the continuance of this case, has the applicant made any overtures that there are going to be any significant changes to the planning through the zoning request that would justify continuance?
The applicant has been in discussion with staff about some additional conditions. We're still talking about those conditions to make sure that they're valid, but even with consideration of those conditions, the staff recommendation of denial would stand.
Thank you. Anyone else with any questions for staff? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shannon. As was stated before, the applicant is sort of deferring their opportunity to speak until later. So I'm going to open the floor for the public hearing. I'm not sure the first name of the first person who signed up. It's Mr. Moore. Is it Rick or Phil or?
Rick Moore.
Is it Rick Moore? Okay, she got it. I was asking her what we might thought it was. So, Rick, Mr. Moore, you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council members, for hearing us once again on this matter. My name is Lee Moore. I live at 4302 Johnson Street in High Point, which is directly across the street from this property. Not to bore you with what has been going on for over a month now, I would like to address you guys tonight and say that our neighborhood does not need a commercial development anywhere in its vicinity. We have commercial development 3 miles up the road, 5 miles up the road in either direction, east, west, north, south. As far as you can see from the center of that intersection is residential. That's what it was intended for. That's why I moved there over 21 years ago. We did our due diligence then. My wife and I drove there and sat beside this house night after night to listen to the airplanes fly over just to see how close they were. We checked with the city back then to see what the land use was. We knew that the road was going to be widened when we bought that property, not quite to the extent that it is, but, you know, it is widened. As Mr. Shannon stated, the widening of that road was planned many years ago, and it was planned for residential growth, not commercial growth, not the commercial growth that has been talked about here or any commercial growth. Any Sunday morning when I leave my house to go have breakfast with the family, there's a police presence in front of the two churches there on Johnson Street for traffic. The road widening, if you've not been out there, and if you have, has been completed on the Skeet Club side and on the Johnson Street side. The part that has not been completed is on the Sandy Ridge Road side, which has no bearing on this potential development at all, in our opinion. With that being said, there are approximately 9 grocery stores within 5 to 10 minutes of this location. Any type of commercial development on the corner would be a tremendous setback for our community. The safety and traffic impact alone would be devastating, in our opinion. I reached out several months ago to Dr. Arwen Smallwood. He's the professor and chair of the Historical and Political Science Department for A&T State University, looking for options for the Mendenhall Blair House. And you'll probably hear tonight more, as was heard during P&Z. This house has tremendous and very deep historical values to our community, and especially to A&T State University, which I've been a part of my entire life. My family and I still own the corner of East Market and Highway 29, where I ran a convenience store there for over 40 years. I reached out to Mr. Smallwood to see what our options would be for federal or state funding to try to utilize that house, to preserve it, to save it, and use it for the value that it is. To give council some background on the house, the first section was built roughly in 1762. The second section was built after the 1800s. To try to move this house would be a disaster. I've spoke to a moving company, they're a construction company. They have site engineers, they have architectural engineers. To move a house that's that old, that was built in 3 different phases, it just wouldn't happen. I mean, it would crumble into pieces, and as soon as you tried to do it, you'd lose it. And that may be part of the plan. We don't know. But with all that being said, lastly, I would respectfully request a unanimous vote against this development, all while following the 9-0 vote by P&Z, the strong recommendation from our own planning department against the development, and hope that you guys will vote in favor of us and deny it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Next person signed up to speak on this item is Abigail Pittman.
Hi.
Hello, Abigail. I haven't
Hi.
seen you in a while.
I know. Do you need my address and everything?
I've got it on the record.
Oh, okay,
here.
thank you, yeah.
That's fine.
My name is Abigail Pittman. I'm a High Point representative on the Guilford County Historic Preservation Commission. I think it's been close to 20 years, whose purpose it is to guide the stewardship of historic properties that embody important architectural elements and cultural history. The Mendenhall House is situated on the eastern portion of the rezoning site. Both the interior and the exterior of the house, the outbuildings, and the land parcel are officially a locally designated Guilford County historic property. The front portion of the house is a Greek Revival style house, simplified through the Quaker influence and constructed between 1848 and 1855. Elihu and his family farmed the family's surrounding 350 acres and ran a tannery, a shoe factory, a general store, and in later years, there was a small dairy on the site. At the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, I submitted the documents related to its designation. Elihu and his family were central figures among the High Point and Guilford County Quaker community in the years before and after the Civil War, for their involvement in education and abolition. He was also the head of the building committee on the Quaker Friends that was a part of one of your zoning cases. The house serves as a bridge between the history of black and white Southerners. Elihu and his second wife, Abigail, were likely part of the Underground Railroad and were known to have been threatened by members of the KKK for teaching freed slaves to read and write. The site represents a chapter of American history and can be seen as a facet of our culture that is special to local history. The applicants have offered verbally, I don't believe it's in writing, to move the historic structure to the second smaller parcel, the one that's in purple. This would not preserve the valuable historic character of this house and the site. Picture in your mind the Publix grocery and its large parking lot at the corner of North Main and Westchester. Now picture this historic home sitting in the corner of the commercial parking lot with all the outbuildings and large old trees gone. My most sincere hope is that the community can come together to focus on a way to save and preserve the Mendenhall house and land. Professionally, I'm also an urban planner. I fully concur with the staff's recommendation that both of the requests be denied. As the planning staff has stated in the report, approval of the requested zoning districts would enable a regional commercial development of the site inconsistent with the character of surrounding development and in conflict with the adopted land use policy guidance documents. The current widening of Ski Club Road and the proposed future widening of Johnson Street Sandy Ridge Road corridor have been very long-range projects that were taken into consideration since the early 2000s when the former Sandy Ridge Road, Johnson Street area plan, and the current Northwest area plan were developed. Neither of these area plans suggested the establishment of a commercial node at this intersection. I urge you to deny these requests.
Thank you, Ms. Pittman. Next speaker, I think it's Georgette, is it Broussard?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, I had written my name down outside to speak against this. Dorothy Collins.
You're not on my sheet. Let me hear from Ms. Broussard, and then we'll let you go next.
Okay,
How about
thank
that?
you.
Did I get your name correct?
Yes.
No.
Oh, her? Oh.
It's Brousseau.
Brousseau, okay.
So like a trousseau.
I got you. All right, Ms. Brousseau.
I have a handout for the council, so good evening. If you could take one and pass it down. I also have it on a thumb drive if I'm permitted to do that.
Madam Clerk, would you like to receive a thumb drive of this, or would that help you?
I've got a paper copy.
Okay. This
Okay.
was
Suffice for my records. Okay, so thank you for hearing me again. The Planning and Zoning meeting on the 26th, I had attended and spoken, and would like to thank all of my helpers in putting together a petition with close to 1,000 signatures from all of the surrounding areas. So I'm sorry, my address is 4460 Orchard Knob Lane, and that is the development that is directly diagonal from the Mendenhall Blair House. So Julianne Schamberg and I put together a paper petition and an online petition. Right now we have 973 signatures. If we are in continuance for another couple of weeks, I'm sure we will pass 1,000. So we do have three major objections. The first is the city land use plan that was put in place in 2000 remains unchanged today as low-density residential institutional. Herb Shannon has gone through all of that in great detail, but I would like to say that if it is approved or considered for approval, this would open the door to additional rezoning requests, and that is literally my greatest fear. Our second concern is the Mendenhall Blair House. I would like to point out, in addition to what Abigail has called everybody's attention to, is that Guilford County did receive a request for this to be demolished. That request was received in 2020. Guilford County Historical Landmark Commission did put a one-year hold on that, and that was up in August of '21. So the request was to have this demolished. That is on paper with the commission. We should be proud to preserve this history and not demolish it. And should the attempt be made to move this house, it may crumble, and that would be a total disregard to its role in history, and shame on us if we let that happen. Our third concern is economic, and that's where the printout of all of the photos came. So there are many local businesses that have gone out of business. Their buildings have remained unoccupied for months and even years. Steinmart, as you can see in the photographs, Earth Fare, Coast, Kerr Drugs has been out since 2014, and then of course we have Ocala Mall, which has been out since before I've moved here. Harris Teeter has reduced their business hours. Most retailers offer home delivery services of either meals or grocery. Most retail establishments, in addition, have help wanted signs right now, so we're not keeping our current retailers profitable. So we should concentrate our support for existing businesses so that they can thrive. We should not dilute the field for a risk to all. And contrary to what Mr. Harris had commented at the Planning and Zoning meeting, our community doesn't need this. We've heard from them that we don't need this and that we don't live in a food desert. Those of us that we have surveyed and spoken with, we've been satisfied with driving 4 miles, 3 miles in any direction to get to our retail centers. Most of us have moved to the area and specifically chose it for the quiet, the safety, the low crime rate. We live in a residential community, and we need to keep it residential. So I created the packet for you to get a visual, because I think a picture tells 1,000 words, and especially seeing on the last page where there is a superimposed Mendenhall house with a grocer and a large parking lot and a drive-up, drive-through restaurant window. It's totally incongruous. So to conclude, we agree with the Planning and Zoning unanimous vote to deny these applications. And if these requests are approved, the precedent is set to approve all future rezoning requests, and then our community and literally our landscape will be changed forever. So we recommend and we hope that you go along with denying these applications.
Thank you, Ms. Brousseau. Ma'am.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Dorothy Collins. I have a slightly different perspective concerning the preservation of the Eli Mendenhall House located at 1106 Ski Club Road, which his father, James Mendenhall, began building in 1810 using handmade nails and finished in 1848. It was dedicated to the city of High Point on September 9th, 1993, a little over 28 years ago. This house serves as a bridge between black, or in other words, ADOS, American descendants of slaves, history, and white Southerners, of whom many were Quakers, who advocated for the abolition of legalized slavery. This Mendenhall house became an integral part of the Underground Railroad. African Americans, as they were considered during this time, were taught there as well by Elihu and his second wife, Abigail, despite the threats from the KKK. This house became instrumental in helping free enslaved African Americans through the Underground Railroad, as reported by later occupants. After learning about this powerful history of Mendenhall House, I feel the need to preserve such a rich history, which is vital to this city and state. Instead of selling and demolishing this historic landmark and its surrounding acreage to make room for another commercial building, such as Publix, Food Lion, or Harris Teeter, and perhaps other commercial properties that are not needed, I'm suggesting that this house be restored and made a site for people to tour, to learn more about our history that has been systemically kept hidden from us. For example, why not include an area where students as well as adults can go and learn about the true history behind the Underground Railroad, an area where they can learn about the contributions and accomplishments of African ancestors most of us don't know about, such as Sisters Margaret and Matilda Peters, nicknamed Pete and Repeat, long before Venus and Serena, who excelled in tennis while attending Tuskegee Institute in 1937 during segregation, which didn't allow them to compete with whites, stifled because of blatant racism, or about other abolitionists other than Harriet Tubman, such as Marcus Delaney, first black field officer in the U.S. Army, Sojourner Truth, A.K. Isabella Baumfree, noted advocate and speaker for the abolition movement and women's rights, or black general, the first black general, U.S. Army Benjamin O. Davis, or Cool Papa Bell, a Negro Baseball League star who many, including the famous Satchel Paige, considered to be the fastest man in baseball, as well as Josh Gibson, considered as the Black Babe Ruth. And what about Ralph Bunche, the first Black American to win the Nobel Peace Prize in 1950, and so many others whose history I would love to know more about. A prolific history and the impact they had in our rich heritage, which we were not taught in school. To subsidize the renovation and upkeep, perhaps create spaces available for other venues where people can pay to use, such as seminars, weddings, an elderly activity center, tours, fishing pond, walking trail, bike trail, etc. In closing, I think it would be a travesty to sell and demolish this house and allocate the land for senseless monetary gain. There are so many reasons to preserve the Mendenhall house, but none as important as keeping the history of the African American evolution from slavery to greatness alive and flourishing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Collins.
Thank you.
Rodney Snipes? You're not going to speak, okay. Ryan, is it Schneith Ivan? Schneith Ivan, I was close. I got the Ivan part right.
Hello, I'm Ryan Schneid-Ivan. My home address is 4512 Oak Hollow in High Point. But I'm here tonight as the principal of Immaculate Heart of Mary Catholic School, which is directly across the Johnson Street from this proposed development. And as Mr. Moore, I believe, our neighbor Kitty Corner has mentioned, the biggest worry that we have is the differentiation of the land use and changing the environment of the neighborhood. In addition to traffic, we are one of the few churches on Johnson Street that doesn't have the budget to offer a police officer at our entrance, our singular entrance to our church property. And the 2,000 families that we have on, as part of our parish, it would be an issue coming in and out with added traffic. I know as the principal, when we have arrival and dismissal, it is already problematic trying to turn left out of our parking lot, and to add additional traffic with a commercial site directly across the street, I'm not sure how we'd manage that on a regular basis. So that is our biggest concern, is the added traffic and the added other uses of that neighborhood, changing it from the residential safe environment that we have now to something different.
Okay, next person on the list is Benjamin Briggs.
Thank you again, Benjamin Briggs. I live here in High Point, 1753 Penny Road. Just hopefully you'll be holding the public hearing open for the next meeting that I won't take up all my time today, so I'll save a little bit today and a little bit the next time. But I just want to clarify some of the facts about this property and its designation. Currently, it is designated as a Guilford County landmark property. It was designated by High Point City Council. All properties, you just went through this process with the John Coltrane house, Reverend Blair Coltrane house here in High Point. City Council designates individual landmark properties, not the county. There's a county joint commission of which Abigail serves and I also serve. So it is locally designated. It's designated by High Point City Council, and it was done so in 1993. High Point has no individual landmark process. We have historic districts here in the city, but we don't designate individual landmarks because of the tax recognition of the property. The property is eligible for the National Register. It is listed to the National Register study list. The reason that it has not been placed on the National Register is because no former owner of the property ever applied for it. There is no big dark Cadillac that comes into town with government officials from the federal level to designate individual landmark properties for the National Register. It has to be made of the initiation of the property owner. So no former owners have ever initiated it, but it has been deemed by the state of North Carolina to be eligible. Demolition cannot be denied for a local landmark property. That's state law. If anybody would like to help me change that, I'd be very happy to speak with you about changing those rules. But right now, there are 20 landmark properties here in High Point, of which the Blair Coltrane House is the 20th. And demolition cannot be denied with those, nor can demolition be denied from a private property owner for a National Register property. So we've tried to do everything that we can through designation to protect the property. However, last year, the property owner initiated the process to demolish the property. That was taken to the Guilford County Preservation Commission. There was a public hearing. A lot of people showed up. Again, it could not be denied. It could only be delayed. And it was delayed the full amount of time. And that delay process is meant as a cooling off period to allow a thoughtful resolution and alternative to demolition of properties. So we've tried everything we can, but it's not our choice, but the property has been applied for destruction, and that's on the table. So that's what my addition is tonight. Thanks.
Mr. Briggs. Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If you don't mind, just because I know what we've heard tonight, and I don't know about you all, but what I've got plenty of calls and emails about, not only has it been about rezoning this, but it sounds like there may be a tad bit of confusion with regards to that actual house and where it stands. Like, I think we just heard from someone saying they don't want it sold and they think the city owns it. It's clear, we need to make clear, the city does not own this. It's a privately owned house.
No.
The city has no power over this house. We don't own the house. The other point that folks have been talking about, and some folks I see are standing on either side of this, which is don't approve the zoning because we don't want the house to go down. If the city council didn't do anything for the next foreseeable future regarding this property whatsoever, there's nothing we could do to stop the house from going down because the property owner has already had their year of delay. So anyone who's here wanting to save the house, there's literally nothing, whether we vote yes or no, with regards to what's going on here with zoning, that can have us stop that property owner. And that's basically what we're hearing right now. I mean, there's not, unless you want to give us a little more clarity.
Just a little clarification. If there's no reason to tear it down, then it probably won't be torn down. So if rezoning is denied, I don't know that the property owner is incentivized to destroy the house because it'd be destroying their own property. So I don't know if the zoning request is not approved, I don't know that the owner will demolish it.
So full disclosure, because again, this is a conversation that's come up a lot. And Benjamin, I appreciate you because you and I had some email exchange about this. And I know the applicant's not here to talk tonight. I think you guys are waiting to talk to December. But I just want to make sure for the sake of everyone listening, both here in the room and on social media and for the paper when it gets written, that right now, there's the speculation that the owner may not demolish if they feel like they don't have a reason. But this owner, well over a year ago, applied to have it demolished when all of this wasn't even on the table. This was the owner wanting to have it. And it sounds like there's a whole nother deal in there with regards to folks saying, we want to preserve the house and we feel like rezoning it could stop it from being preserved. I think my point I'm trying to make clear is, even if we don't rezone, that's not saying the house is being saved, because ultimately, if the owner decides that they want to destroy it, the owner has that right to destroy it. So we want to make sure everyone's clear about that. This isn't to speak in favor or against rezoning. This is literally just making sure, because I had someone come up to me at a dinner last week and say, y'all to do something to save that house, how dare you approve rezoning? And I said, heck, if we didn't approve rezoning, we could do nothing with the property and the house could go down. And again, the owner could speculatively choose not to do something about it, but it's in their hands. So sorry, Mr. Mayor, I just feel like we keep hearing that part, and we just want to make sure, because I think folks think council tonight or any other night has the power to stop that house from going down. We don't.
And to add to Councilman Jefferson's point,
Just
if,
1 second.
Okay.
1 second.
Sure.
Councilman Jones, go ahead.
to add his point, just like Councilman Jefferson said, it's not for or against it, but I disagree with you, what you're saying, Mr. Briggs. They have no incentive to tear it down. Their incentive is, that's been one of the contentions of this project. If council does or doesn't do anything, they could decide to tear that home down just to keep that point against this rezoning off the table for something 2-3 years from now. So that is an incentive for them to tear it down. So I do think it's important to find a way to preserve this piece of history, however that gets accomplished. So I'd love to help you do that.
Yeah, and, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, and I understand that this process was initiated through a developer showing interest in the property. So the property owner, I understand, has not initiated this out of their own interest, but they were approached by a developer a year ago. That was what was presented at the historic preservation hearing a year ago. Maybe not this developer, but a previous developer. I can't get into that too much.
I love to know, just for the sake of everyone knowing, because that's going to be a speculative topic. And forgive me for making an assumption here, but just the nature of conversations such as these, when we bring up very sentimental treasures in our community, such as a home that was on the Underground Railroad, there's so much speculation out there about what's what. I just feel like the air needs to be very, very clear on this in terms of what's what, because there's some folks thinking that the developer who's coming in right now, who's asking for this rezoning request, is the one who wants to tear down the house, but that developer is actually saying they want to keep the house, they would just have to move it. And folks who are saying, well, we don't want it moved because it could damage it. Okay, well, if we don't move it, there's no stopping it from going down in its current position. At least the developer, from what I'm here, is telling us they'll keep it up. And granted, I know we can't trust that necessarily because we don't know for sure what'll be what, but we want to be clear, there's no guarantee if we do nothing that the house will stay up. There's no guarantee about that. And it sounds like there's no clarity about which developer actually wanted it torn down in the first place. So.
Okay, let's move on. Next speaker is it Candace Gregg? You need to come to the lectern because we got to get you on, we got to get your address, and we got to get you on the microphone, so we'll have a record of you.
Yes, hi, my name is Candace Gregg. Thank you for listening to me, City Council. There's been so many interesting points tonight that I really am not going to speak. I agree with so much of it, and I'm just not going to waste your time. My speech was small, and that's it. I just want to say I agree with it, with trying not to take the property down, the house down.
Thank you, Ms. Gregg.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm at the end of the list of folks who've signed up. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? If so, please come to the lectern and give us your name and address. Mr. Moore, you're back for round two.
Yes, sir. Lee Moore, 4302 Johnson Street, High Point.
Please just keep it short.
Yes, sir. To rebut what we just heard just a minute ago, this is not solely about saving the Mendenhall Blair house. That is a part of what we're here for. What we're here for is to preserve our neighborhood and our community from a commercial development that doesn't need to be there. So when this gets written in the paper, as you stated, it does not need to be written that this meeting here was about saving this house, and that is the only reason that these people are here. We're here because, as the church stated, it's a traffic and a safety issue. The land use map states there's been no plan for that, and there still shouldn't be. So if we're going to be clear, let's be clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you.
Hello, my name
Your
is
name and address.
Ross Pickett,
I live on 1710 Gentry Court, right behind where you want to build this shopping center. I've been living there for 16 years. Thought this was a great place to live. I worked like a slave just to pay for it. Many hours. Now when it's time for me to retire, you say you want to put a shopping center in my backyard. You want to put a wooden fence up that's going to fall apart, that when I come out my back door, this is what I have to look at. There's a draining problem already in my backyard. And far as what you're saying, I don't have a problem with the developer building, but why he can't build upscale houses? If he want to build something there. So that's not a problem with the house if you want to say, tear the house down. I don't want the house tore down, but you can build something besides a commercial building. Why? What reason is it? And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pickett. Sir, give us your name and address.
My name is Jeff Reap, and I live at 4321 Poplar Creek Lane in High Point, which is the Gables.
What's your last name?
Reap, R-E-E-P, P as in Paul.
Thank you.
I'm not going to be the smartest speaker you've had tonight. I'm here for very selfish reasons. I live right, my back of my house looks right at that commercial space. I would like to state that I'm a pro-business when it makes sense for the community. I'm here voicing my opinion against the proposed shopping center located at the corner Ski Club in Johnson. The reasons for not wanting this shopping center are not any elaborate reasons other than the area is truly a residential area with a few places of worship scattered along Ski Club. There's no commercial located on Ski Club except for the area near 68 in East Chester. There are currently 6 large grocery stores within 3.2 miles of the proposed site, and I'll venture to say that if the Penny Road site is approved, there'll be 7 grocery stores within 3.2 miles of the proposed site. The attorney for the shopping center suggested at a previous meeting that I was at that the proposed grocery store would fill a hole. There's not a hole. We're good. I hardly view the area as being in a hole, and we need a grocery store. Open dumpsters will create rodent issue for the neighborhoods that we'll have to deal with. In closing, I'd like to request the board not to approve the proposed shopping center, and I do not believe it's necessary or will benefit the city of High Point.
Thank you. Okay, next. Before we continue, come on up, but before you speak, if you would like to speak, could you kind of form a line over here so I kind of know when we're getting to the end? So, okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Gloria Halstead, 901 Johnson Street, High Point. I just wanted to make a point of clarification with regard to what Councilman Jefferson had to say. The city can do something with regard to whether or not the house comes down, because the city would have to issue a demolition permit for the house to come down. It can't come down without it. Also, the Guilford County Historic Preservation Commission would have to sign off on that demolition permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ma'am?
That 1 year.
Hi there. I'm Ashley Reeves, and this is my daughter Lydia Reeves. We're residents in the community. We live across the street from the proposed commercial development, if it is rezoned. One of our concerns, we've only lived there for a year and did not know that this was going to be on the plate. But we're part of Fox Run Farms, which is an equestrian community. Side note, High Point University houses the equestrian team there on the farm behind our house. In addition to the aforementioned, I wanted to add that a commercial development will greatly increase population, traffic, noise, lights, all which are not at all conducive to an equestrian community. I ask that you support the denial for rezoning, which will encroach on our privacy, our farm lifestyle, and the safety of our riders. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir, you're next.
Yes, my name is Fred Catalano. I live at 1217 Maplewood in High Point, and I am the former president of the HOA of the Windsor subdivision that is just below this complex that is being talked about. And those houses, I used to be a truck driver, and you'll have trucks running around behind that, and there's houses run back there. You're gonna have the trucks running, the refrigeration units running, and everything else. And there's also a pond right there, which also, that could be the garbage from the different areas be blown in, and we pay $3,500 a year to keep that pond clean. So I'm totally against, and I'm sure most of the people of the Windsor community are against this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Joe Barnes. I live at 4333 Poplar Creek Lane, beautiful city of High Point in the Gable community. And I'm glad to be here tonight. Good to see you, Mayor and City Manager and council men and women and citizens. It's good to be here. And we are a group of neighbors from the Gables community, and we wanted to come out and just share that we love High Point. We love pro-business. We're glad for new jobs to come to High Point when those jobs will bless everyone. And looking at the proposal from the developer, our community feels that it would not be in the best interest of that area. As you've already heard from many of us, we moved in that community because some of us now looking at a 55 and older community that'll be a little quieter, a little safer. We can get out and walk our dogs and animals and cats and not have to worry about so many delivery trucks. Of course, Amazon has changed that a little bit. But that development would make it very difficult for us to make left turns out of Poplar Creek Lane onto Ski Club because that would increase traffic. The church, with all the children there at Immaculate Heart of Mary, it would be very difficult. They probably would have to go in the budget and hire an officer to help direct traffic out there for worship. And so we asked the council and the Planning and Zoning Committee, thank you. We agree with you all that we not approve this land to be rezoned for any type of commercial development at this time. So thank you for listening to us. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to come and share and hear our story. And God bless all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes.
Ma'am, this will be our last speaker. If anybody else wants to speak, this will be your speak now. Okay. Ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you. Julianne Schamberg, 4104 St. John Street. I am not going to restate any points, but I just have a question for the City Council. Why do we have to do a continuance, and I'll come back again in December? You had a really large neighborhood contingent at the Planning and Zoning. Even more people spoke then. You heard staff say that even if they wrote conditions into their proposal, they still did not think it made sense. So I am just asking City Council to go ahead and vote tonight so we all don't have to reconvene in December. Thank you.
I believe the reason that the developer and their attorney's here, but I believe their main reason to ask for it was there was a health issue, I believe, with one of the property owners. Is that correct? Among other things. There's a health issue with one of the property owners. So I'm inclined to do that. And it's generally been the unofficial policy, I guess, of council. If parties are trying to work together and work with the city to make something happen, we're generally amenable to granting that extra time. It doesn't hurt anyone to grant a little bit of extra time if the parties are still speaking and still working together. So that's generally why we do it. And with that, I'm keeping the public hearing open, but I'm not hearing from any more speakers tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and make the motion. Sir? Can I speak? Absolutely, the last one. You got 3 minutes.
Chris Malcolm, 3905 Kim Drive. If I can make a suggestion to have it rescheduled sometime after the holidays, because a lot of folks are going to be, December 20th is really close to the holidays. Just a suggestion.
All right.
So I guess I have to wait to speak to after you've made a motion in a second.
I'm going to ask the applicant what their thoughts are on that. We're not, now wait a minute, we are having a meeting in January, correct? We're not postponing the first meeting in January.
I think we are.
Until the
Tuesday. Is that next day?
Yeah, but I mean, we're not
Yes.
canceling
Oh, no, we're
that
having it.
meeting.
No,
We
we're
are
having
having a
it.
meeting. It's going to be on that Tuesday. What are your thoughts on that? Agreeable? Okay. Does staff have an issue with that?
Staff doesn't have any objections with that. You're speaking about the Tuesday, January 4th meeting?
I believe that's correct. Okay. All right. Well, then, what I'm going to do then is make a motion to, I'm keeping the public hearing open, but to continue the consideration of this item, 2021-508, which is land plan amendment 21-04, and 2021-509, which is zoning map amendment 21-18, to our meeting on January the 4th, 2022, where we'll hear from the applicant and potentially take final action at that time. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by, I believe that was Councilman Hudson. Is there any discussion on council about that?
I have.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and I get nervous when I have to speak against some things, but anyway, I'm super thankful for all of you coming out. It means so much to all of us on council to hear, and I, am all for development. I think that all of us on council, we really want to see economic growth. But when our planning and zoning was here till 11 o'clock at night, 9-0 voted against this commercial, I think the applicant's going to have to come back with a whole new proposal. And so I think at this time, so that everyone can enjoy their holiday season without this over their head, that we should deny the continuance and vote tonight.
Anyone who would like to be heard on the motion? Anyone else who'd like to be heard?
I wish, I echo what a lot of what Councilman Peters has said. I wish it were for a different reason. I wish we could come to a vote tonight to give these people some peace of mind, put this behind us. I do feel like the developer and does have a right to be heard, and if they were medically unable to be here, I think we owe them at least that much so that the full council does hear what they have to say. I don't know that it will change the opinion. I've already heard it would change the opinion of staff. I don't know that it would change the opinion of anyone on council, but I do agree with most of what Monica said.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, this is Councilman Johnson, and I would agree completely with what Councilwoman Monica Peters said. Based on, if nothing's going to change, and I believe that you all, staff mentioned that basically it would still be a denial. Why would we wait, push it down to next year? Let's vote on it today. Give this community the peace of mind to enjoy your holidays, and let's get it over with tonight.
Would anybody else here like to be heard on the motion?
I'd just like, not clarification, I just find it somewhat, when you have this much energy and this much interest, and on such an issue of importance to the community. I feel like that we came in here and got notified at the 11th hour that we're going to have these continuances, when we already apparently knew about them for however long we've known about them. I don't think that was quite handled the correct way.
So,
I think part of the issue why it was handled the way it was, they did come in kind of towards the end of last week. And what we don't want to do is have everybody, all these citizens who are concerned, come in here and to speak tonight and then say, oh, we're continuing it, come back in a month. So that's why we went ahead and had the hearing tonight. We went ahead and had the staff report, because it wouldn't be fair to the folks who came in and wanted to speak, to tell them to go away and come back in a month, you know. And out of fairness now for the applicant, I think that it's, given the issues that they have, it's, you know, you want to be fair to both sides, and I think it's only fair to the applicant. I know it's disappointing to the folks who are here, but I think it's only fair to the applicant who's asked in good faith for a continuance, and is trying to work out some of the issues apparently with the proposed development, that we grant the continuance. So I'm in support of the continuance.
And I would.
And it would be, you know, again, this is, it's not like this thing isn't going to get decided. It's going to get decided at some point. You know, if we're going to vote to decide something tonight, then it's not going to be fair for us to do it without hearing from the applicant,
Right.
who I don't think is even ready to present tonight. So,
Madam Attorney, do I need to make a substitute motion?
you can make a substitute motion if you would like.
Okay.
And
I'd like-
I agree with the mayor, if you do have a substitute motion, I think you need to hear from the applicant tonight as well. I don't think
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
fair.
but again, I'm not sure they're,
Right,
I'm not
right.
sure they're ready to be heard from, and I don't know that necessarily that's particularly fair to the applicant.
And
Right, and
it is a legislative decision.
Yes?
You don't have to hear from the applicant, but of course, everything's been stated.
Well, the public hearing's still open,
Right.
and I'm in
right,
charge.
Right,
So I can-
exactly.
I
It's
can
not
let the
closed
public-
yet.
I can let him I can let them come and speak if I want to, but.
Mr. Mayor, the applicant is right here. He can weigh in, they can weigh in if they're ready to present tonight or not, or they can weigh in fully on this issue. All we need to do is ask them, they're right here in the room, they can clarify where their position is right now. If they are not prepared to speak tonight on the issue, then we can vote on the continuance. If they are prepared to present tonight, we can make the final decision on this, but we don't need to belay this over and over and over again, going around in circles, when the applicant is right here in the room and they can clarify their positions.
Okay. Would you like to come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Holtz. My name is Brian Gavigan. I know most of you from civic life in High Point over the years. Our client is Tom Vincent, and he has been in the hospital as an inpatient with a very, very serious pulmonary ailment. This is his second hospitalization in the last 2 months, but I think he's going to be well. And I appreciate your consideration for that. One thing that I would like to say to the council and to the people in the room is I believe that we have some very, very good news, creative news, constructive news for the history issues and the preservation of the house that will lift up and highlight the house as never before. You know, I think a lot of people have lived here a long time and didn't know the house was there or didn't know much about it at all. And this developer wants to change that. Now, I can't make those commitments to you tonight because it's going to be a three-party agreement between the developer, the landowner, and Ms. Bridges from the African American Historical Trail. And that's what we have in mind, is to make it, I think it's either the 13th or the 14th stop. It's expensive to do it, and we've got to get the the landowner to agree, who we're working with as well. But it's going to not only quell most of the issues about that, well, it'll quell them all, and I think it'll be exciting news. So that's one thing. I believe is let's put it this way, it'll be worth the wait. Okay? The second thing is that one of the concerns that was prevalent at the planning and zoning hearing was a concern about fast food restaurants. And we've made a pledge that there won't be any fast food restaurants, but one of the things we ran into at the planning and zoning hearing was some difficulty about what that language would be in a post-COVID era when a lot of restaurants that normally didn't have a curbside or a pickup window now did. I mean, an example is Panera. Panera, the one on Main Street, now has a drive-through window. So is that now like a McDonald's, or is it like the Panera that you knew on 68 for some time? We have gone back and forth with the city, with Mr. Shannon's department, on what that language meant. Part of that was on view during the planning and zoning hearing, and we didn't work it out, but we want to work it out. It is with respect to the community that we try and do everything that we can to make the community comfortable with this grocery store area. It's going to be a new grocery store. We also talked about limiting the hours, and we want to talk about that. And we have several other things that we're working on, and we have some information we want to talk to IHM about. I've been a member of IHM for 30 years, and I know the people over there in the school and the church well. If you recognize me, I'm a lector at the 8 a.m. Mass. Not a lot of people go that one, 7:30. But we have some constructive and good news that we will bring to you. It won't be a waste of your time. It will be something, I think, that will represent a breakthrough. And the people in here may say there's nothing you can do that will represent a breakthrough. I don't think that's the case. I think that whether it's December 20th or out of courtesy to the people in the room January 4th, it'll be worth the wait. It'll be something special for our city.
Thank you, Mr. Gavin.
May I ask the applicant a question?
Yeah,
Okay.
Mr. Gavin.
Brian, sorry, I
There's
just want to ask you.
questions.
So is it fair to say that you've got to go back to the drawing board?
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I'd say we're pretty far along on the drawing board on all the things I mentioned.
Okay.
Yes. So, and by the way, I think we submitted the request last week. I think it was Wednesday.
So if we did vote tonight, the applicant can come back in early 2022 and propose another proposal, another presentation?
I believe if it's denied, they can't
No.
resubmit for a year.
No, we couldn't. We couldn't.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think it's going to be worth the wait. It's a great grocery store. It'll mean a lot, I think, to a lot of people in the community that you'll hear from, and we'll settle in a positive way, in an uplifting way, the issue, the concerns about the house, which is the concerns of many.
Mayor, we're checking that right now. We made an amendment, and we think that we made the amendment to remove that 1-year period of waiting, so.
Okay. All right, there's a motion on the floor. Are there any more comments, questions about the motion that's on the floor? The motion on the floor, which has been seconded, is to continue this item to our January 4th, 2022 meeting.
And I'd like to make a substitute motion
Okay.
to deny request of the continuation and vote tonight.
Okay, there's a substitute motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion, there's a substitute motion to decide the case tonight. Is there any discussion on this item?
I'll restate what I said before. I wish we could vote on it tonight. And I don't want to inconvenience anybody. I know how difficult it is to come and gather these things, but as fair as I got to be to the people who live in High Point, who have an opinion and stake in the game, live next door, ethically, I think we have, the developer needs to have the right to present to council, and I want to give them that opportunity. Trust me, I wish we could vote for this thing, because I'm tired of answering emails and phone calls about this thing. But in all fairness, I want to be able to sleep at night, know my integrity allowed both parties to present what they needed to present.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Substitute motion.
I
Yes.
could add in, this is Councilman Jefferson. So a number of thoughts are probably percolating in my mind with regards to this item. I think there's an immense amount, or rather I should say, lack of clarity with regards to a number of things here. I think that because it's come up so much, and I appreciate all the comments made about it, it's come up so much about the house. There's just really no clarity about the house with what's going to happen. Like, we've not even heard from the current owner what their plans are if this does not go through. I think if some people knew, like if we just hypothetically said the current owner, if this does not go through, it's going to demolish this house tomorrow, I think you'd have some people right now would switch sides of the argument immediately. Well, thank you.
Quiet, please.
Yeah, so I think there's an immense amount of just clarity needed. I think my other thought, and while I have an appreciation for organizing, there is a part of me that I'd be remiss to not say, there's a part of me that screams out at least a perception of, there's the community pride for where we live, but there's a part of me that is saying it's not right that if they're saying he's in the hospital, that we say we're going to go ahead and vote tonight. And if the issue is that you showed up tonight, you don't want to show up in 2 months, okay, that happens. Our city's got to do what's right. Show up in 2 months again. I think that's the right thing to do. The man's in the hospital. Thank you for your emails and your calls, but if we're hearing and saying the man's in the hospital, we've got to let them be heard. And to say that the energy for tonight, because there's a lot of people in the room, I don't know. I think when I ran and campaigned, I didn't say I'd always just be swayed by the amount of people who show up. I can appreciate that, y'all, but I think there's an ethics to this all, too. The man's in the hospital. So if we need to make another substitute motion to a substitute motion, a motion to continue.
Well, the motion to continue is still there. We're going to vote on the substitute motion first, and if it fails, then we'll vote on that original motion.
Right, default's back.
So it's still pending. The original motion to go to January 4th is still pending.
Well, then my comments to council are, there's no need to rush this. There's no need to rush this. Nothing's changing. Like, whatever your nice house is in Ward 5, it'll still be nice in 2 months. It'll still be there.
Whoa, hey. No more comments from the floor. This is discussion time between council, okay? I know y'all are emotional about this, but this is the time to listen.
And my hope is that my peers on council will have, I think, the thought to, again, I mean, the man's in the hospital, and we're literally saying we don't want to hear him because we've got a room full of emotional folks. Like, I have a respect for that, but two things can be true. You can have respect for the folks who showed up tonight and respect for the fact that a man's in the hospital. I don't get what we're talking about here. So if we're going to vote to approve voting on this tonight because we don't want to wait for a man to get out the hospital because people are upset tonight, by God, I don't know. I mean, do ethics come into play every time we get 150 people upset? Like, I don't know. I got a lot of feelings right now about this because it just feels ethically wrong.
Thank you.
It feels wrong.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Holmes.
Thank you. Respectfully, to all my fellow members of council, I'm a part of this community, as is Councilmember Jones. And I don't think that the entirety of what we're dealing with here tonight is, folks being upset about 2 months. I think people are upset about the possibility of what their quality of life is going to be like for 10 to 20 years, and how this is going to affect how they live, how they are part of this community for 10 to 20 years. And so, I'm of the mind that these people have, they've come here, they've lent their voices, they've called, they've done everything that we ask that community members do to weigh in on issues that are important to our development of our city. Many of you I've spoken to about the delicate balance that we face in growing this city and also maintaining a high quality of life for each of you. And these are important issues. That being said, for us to consistently be fair to all parties involved, if you've been here from the beginning, most of the parties who have come here tonight that have asked for continuances and asked for stays, we've granted them, we've given them additional time. For us to do this, for us to deny an applicant that's asked for additional time when we've done exactly that on all other issues tonight is inconsistent. And so I appreciate your passion. I understand what you're going through. But in terms of the consistency of how we govern, we have to be consistent in governing for every single person in the same way. And so if we've granted continuances for other parties tonight, this party are well within their rights to ask for a continuance, and we need to be consistent with granting that as well. I live in that community. I understand the impact that this is going to have. I share your concerns. But in terms of us being a fair governing body to all citizens in the city, we have to be consistent in how we deliver these decisions. And if we did not grant them the continuance, we'd be inconsistent with what we've done since I've been on council, and especially inconsistent with what we've done in this very session tonight.
Anyone else before the vote? Okay.
Well, I would like to say something, Mayor Wagner.
Yes.
Given the fact that the applicant is in the hospital, I wasn't aware of that sooner. I understand that, and I respect my fellow colleagues, so I would like to withdraw my motion.
Okay. The motion with Ms. Peters has been withdrawn. All right, so council will now vote on the original motion, which is to grant continuance on this item through the meeting on January 4th. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes. All right, so next item on the agenda is, if you're leaving, please do so quietly. Next item on the agenda is 2021-510, zoning map amendment 21-21. Mr. Shannon.
The dynamic.
Yes, this is a request, zoning map amendment 21-21, to rezone a 6.5 acre parcel located along the south side of Ski Club Road, approximately 1,200 feet west of Johnson Street. The applicant is proposing to develop a single-family subdivision on this site. This is a copy of our land use plan. The site is highlighted. The area you see highlighted in yellow, our land use plan designates all this area as low-density residential, which allows primarily single-family development up to 5 units per acre. The applicant's requesting rezoning from R3 to an R5 district. Both the R3 and R5 district are intended for single-family development. The primary difference is the R3 allows 3 units per acre, R5, 5 units per acre, and also, as long as you have at least 5 acres, the R5 would permit a twin home development. But that is not the key issue as far as 3 versus 5 units per acre. This site is within the Ocala Lake Watershed Critical Area, Tier 4. Regardless of the zoning district, for a residential development, it's either 2 units per acre or 50% impervious coverage. If you can meet the 50% impervious coverage and get up to 5 units per acre, then that is permitted, but that is the key issue as to intensity of development in this area. The applicant, because the site is within this watershed critical area and it is impacted by a stream, this is a copy of the topography map. You see that in the northern part of the site, that blue line, a stream runs through the site. The applicant is requesting rezoning to have some flexibility in regards to dimensional requirements versus the R3 versus the R5 district to develop a single-family development. The request as far as compatibility with the surrounding area, as I previously noted, the land use plan supports single-family development or residential development up to 5 units per acre. Prior zoning approvals have supported a mixture of residential development within a half mile of the intersection of Johnson Street and Ski Club Road. So you see directly east of the site, the St. Andrews Townhome Development and the Orchard Knobs Townhome Development. Land use policy has supported a mixture of residential development as long as you do not exceed the requirements of the watershed critical area and do not exceed the 5 units per acre that the land use plan notes. The applicant has offered a condition to install a public street through the site that would connect to the southern property line. So in the future, if that property to the south develops, you would not have another driveway access point to Ski Club Road they can tap into that public street. Finally, the request does promote a preferred development pattern. Adopted policy guidance, mainly the land use plan and other zoning approvals, have supported a mixture of residential zoning in this area, and subject to meeting requirements of the watershed critical area, have supported developments up to 5 units per acre. Thus, staff is recommending approval of the request to rezone this site from its current R3 district to a conditional zoning residential single-family 5 district. The request is in conformance with adopted policy guidance documents. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this application at their October public hearing and recommended approval by a vote of 9-0. The Commission stated that the request is consistent with adopted policy guidance because the proposed conditional zoning R5 district is supported by the low-density residential designation and goals and objectives of the land use plan. The Commission also stated that the request is reasonable in the public interest because the requested R5 zoning is in harmony with the low-density residential land use classification that has historically been established for lands along this segment of the Ski Club Road corridor. That is a brief summary of the zoning request. Are there any questions for staff at this time?
Thank you, Ms. Shannon. Okay, council will now hear from the applicant or the applicant's representative.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and all the council members. My name is Pankaj Jinwala, and I'm representing BSP Investment. I have my colleague Bimal Jinwala, and we also have Will Price from Ed Price and Realtor, who also represent us in this transaction. So we are here to answer any of your questions.
Anyone have questions for the applicant? Okay. Hearing none, thank you, sir. The public hearing is open. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor or against this item? Okay. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I'll make a motion. Let's see. I believe there's a consistency statement. Hold on, I'll find it. Okay, I'm going to make a motion for approval of the item and state that the zoning map amendment 21-21 is consistent with the city's adopted policy guidance because the proposed CZR5 district is supported by the low-density residential designation and the goals and objectives of the land use plan. Furthermore, the request is reasonable and in the public interest because the requested CZR5 zoning is in harmony with the low-density residential land use plan classification that has historically been established for lands along this segment of Ski Club Road corridor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion, a second for approval. Is there any discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approval of the item, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is annexation case 21-07 and zoning map amendment 2122, correct? We're doing those?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, staff will do a combined presentation of the annexation and rezoning. We just have to vote on them separately. These two applications pertain to annexation and establishment of City High Point zoning on lands lying along the southern leg of Joyce Circle, west of Ski Club Road, and the parcels also lies north of the I-74 corridor. This is the area proposed for annexation. I would just note, I'm going to flip quickly to the zoning request. The property for zoning is 72 acres, but if you see the eastern portion along Ski Club Road is already within the High Point corporate limits. So the annexation is just for that western portion of the site that is in unincorporated Forsyth County. The applicant's requesting annexation to have access to city utilities to facilitate the development of a residential subdivision. This site is within the western part of the city's planning area, and as you can see from the overhead projection, there have been prior zoning approvals in this Forsyth County portion of the City of High Point's planning area. The property just to the north was recently annexed and granted city zoning approximately 2 years ago, and lands on the opposite side of the I-74 corridor, also in Forsyth County. That area was actually annexed in 2007 and has recently received permits for development. Annexation of this site would not negatively impact the city's ability to provide services, as there are water and sewer lines available in the area, and city service vehicles currently run along the Ski Club Road corridor. Therefore, there are no objections to the proposed annexation. In regards to the rezoning request, the applicant's requesting to establish initial city zoning. They have requested a conditional zoning for residential multifamily 16 zoning for the site. Included with this application are a conditional zoning ordinance which the applicants offer conditions pertaining to lot combination, landscaping, right-of-way dedication, and vehicle access. For informational purposes, anytime there is a residential development, as a courtesy, staff contacts the local school district to have information available in your packet regarding impact of schools. That is provided for informational purposes in your packet. The size of the development did trigger the requirement for a traffic impact analysis that has been provided by the applicant, and that executive summary is noted within your staff report. Key items to note regarding the staff analysis: as to compatibility with surrounding area, the land use plan designates this site for medium density residential land uses. This is a copy of the land use plan for this area. Those lands lying along the west side of this portion of Ski Club Road, as part of the adoption of the Northwest Area Plan, included a recommendation, and there was a land use plan amendment, I believe in 2011, that established a medium density residential designation for this area. The requested RM16 district is consistent with that. The development ordinance has standards that for either a multifamily or townhome development, there are specific standards regarding building height, number of attached townhome units, exterior lighting standards, perimeter lighting standards, perimeter landscaping standards, open space requirements, and screening requirements. That's all part of the development ordinance for any type of RM16 district use, which could range anywhere from single family to townhomes to multifamily uses. As far as mitigation of impacts, the applicants offered to dedicate right-of-way along Ski Club Road for road improvements, for a turn lane, and they've also offered to improve that southern leg of Joyce Circle that the site abuts. I would note that this site does have two streams that run through the site, and any development would be required to meet our stream buffer requirements. Finally, land use policies established from the Northwest Area Plan does support the requested RM16 district for this area, and staff is recommending approval to rezone the site to establish initial city zoning for the conditional zoning RM16 district. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this request at their October meeting and recommended approval by a vote of 9-0. The Commission stated that the request is consistent with adopted policy guidance. as the requested RM16 district is supported by the medium-density residential land use plan designation governing this portion of the city and by goals and objectives of the Northwest Area Plan. The commission also stated that the request that RM16 district is in harmony with the adopted policy guidance documents and similar to previous conditional zoning approvals granted in this area. I would note, since the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the applicant has provided some updated conditions. If you had a chance to look at the conditional zoning ordinance, those are bold and underlined. The applicant can go into more detail, but they have amended their request to add a condition that will prohibit multifamily uses. They've added a condition limiting the density to 550 units and added a condition to add some additional buffering and landscaping standards for that property to the south that fronts along Ski Club Road. That is a quick summary of this request from staff. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Mr. Shannon. Thank you, Mr. Shannon. Okay, we'll now hear from the applicant or applicant's representative.
Again, I'm Tom Terrell, 529 West Parkway Avenue. I'm with the law firm Fox Rothschild, representing the applicant, Leo Terra Development. Leo Terra is represented tonight by Kyle Bunker. We also have Frank Armenia with Davenport Engineering. Frank is here tonight. His company did the very extensive study from which the conditions have come from for this. I don't always speak for or introduce the property owners, but I think it's important to do that tonight. John and Bill Bensani, cousins to each other, descend from probably among the very first job creators who came into High Point that made this the furniture capital of the world that we have become. Bill has served, I think it was 4 or maybe 5 terms on the Planning and Zoning Commission, spent many hours here, then spent several terms as a council member, then the mayor of this city before he was elected to the Guilford County Board of Commissioners. And he served, as you all know, in many other capacities. I still think of John Bensani as that nice, polite kid who used to live a couple of doors down from me on Hayworth Circle. But John has been a banker in this community going on into his 4th decade. He has been involved with so many different aspects of this community. And I just would like to recognize them. And then I also don't get to recognize next door neighbors, but former council member David Wall and his wife Bitsy are here. We offer these conditions that you just heard. We've been working with the Walls throughout, been in constant communication because this will surround their house. They have been in this area for a long time. I do want to go through a very quick, overview, just about 5 slides, to answer the question, why this development and why do it right here? It's really very obvious. For starters, it is right on the interstate. You don't want to put single-family homes, and you're not going to put single-family homes abutting an interstate. It's an undeveloped tract that has all the utilities. It is perfect transitional zoning. There is industrial on the land use plan to the west, and then there's single-family to the east, and this is a perfect transition. It's also very proximate to everything in High Point. This site just drops right down into Main Street and into the core city. Having more people there, and we need more density, would be good for all of those businesses. Now, I do point out that most residential density, as you've been seeing in rezonings, is getting more dense. But also, this is what the market is saying. The market will direct us to where these types of uses are needed. Now, I will say for this part that Leo Terra, this is the site, the site is in green. Leo Terra has been finding many sites that are proximate to interstates. And that's because there's a segment of our market where you have multiple breadwinners that are in each household. But you choose where you live, but then one of them, the husband might go to Burlington, The wife might go to Lexington, somebody might go to Winston-Salem, but the highway network, which gives us our economic strength, also connects us to all of those jobs. I circle in what you see, I circle the interchanges to the north or to the east and west in blue. The site is circled in green. I have circled a couple of higher density developments that show you that this is the trend in the area. And the white line that I crudely drew on this map is Skeet Club that drops right down into the areas where we have businesses that could use this population for more growth. This shows you that it's just a large undeveloped tract. Some similar homes. This is immediately to the north. It's RM16. This is on Joyce Circle. Believe it or not, those are single-family homes. They look like they're about 5 feet apart from each other when you drive past them, but that tends to be what we're happening now. This is also to the east, another trend in closer development. And then my final slide, this is an older slide. We now have a limit. We've working with the walls to drop the number of density closer to what we believe is the maximum number, and we put that at 550 so that the density would be about 7.8 units per acre, which is still below what we call for in our land use plan. So that's what we have. I'm glad to answer any questions. Mr. Armenia is here. If there is anybody with a question about traffic, I would ask him to come up and certainly defer to his expertise.
Thank you, Mr. Terrell. Any questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here, the floor is open, is there anyone here to speak in favor or against this item? Okay. Seeing none, there are two items. First one being the annexation case. I'm going to make a motion for approval of annexation case 21-07. There's a second by Councilwoman Peters. Any discussion on the annexation? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approval of annexation case 21-07, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Next, I'll make a motion for approval of zoning map amendment 21-22 and state that the case is consistent with the city's adopted policy guidance because the requested CZ RM16 zoning is supported by the medium-density residential land use plan designation governing this portion of the city and by the goals and objectives of the Northwest Area Plan. Furthermore, the request is reasonable and in the public interest because the requested CZ RM16 district is in harmony with adopted policy guidance documents, and it is similar to previous conditional zoning approvals granted in this area. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor of approval of zoning map amendment 21-22, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Next is an item regarding an annexation case 21-09 by Piedmont Triad Airport Authority. You wearing two hats here tonight, Bill? You wearing two hats here tonight? Okay. All right. Okay, for that, I'm going to recognize Mr. Shannon again.
The next two agenda items, annexation 2109 and zoning map amendment 2124, pertain to an approximately 13-acre tract of land lying at the northern limits of the city's planning area. As we've noted before, the city has a set planning area that we've negotiated with adjacent municipalities. The site's lying along the north side of National Service Road, approximately 1,200 feet west of Piedmont Triad Parkway. They've requested annexation to facilitate an agreement that was previously established with the city and also to establish city zoning. The applicant is Piedmont Triad International Airport as far as the annexation, and between 2013 and 2014 they had a proposal to develop the site. They are considered a governmental entity, and our water exemption policy does allow an exemption for governmental entities to be exempted from annexation requirements as far as water sewer connection. They've made that request and were granted that exemption at that time. They are in the process of selling the property, And in order to meet the spirit of the agreement that they entered into the city with the pending sale in the next 30 to 60 days, they have submitted this request to annex the property as the new owner would not be a governmental entity. City services have been established in this area. Directly on the opposite side of the street, you can see the lands that are already within the High Point city limits. Thus, this would be a logical progression of the city's annexation policy for this area. In regards to the rezoning, the applicant has submitted an application for a conditional zoning light industrial district, and they've included conditions regarding right-of-way dedication and navigation easement, and for development to be subject to the higher standards of our employment center, which is also another industrial district. That is similar to the pattern for zoning that's been granted in this area. Directly across the street, when those lands were annexed in the late 1990s, they were granted LI zoning, but to meet the higher development standards of our former corporate park district. Corporate park has been transitioned over to our employment center district. So this applicant's proposing the same conditions that previous industrial users have proposed for this area. You allow those light industrial uses, but just have higher development standards. And this request will be a continuation of the existing development standards for this area. Thus, staff is recommending approval. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this request at their October public hearing, recommended approval by a vote of 9-0. The commission stated that the request is consistent with adopted policy guidance because as conditioned, the requested conditional zoning light industrial district zoning is supported by the restricted industrial land use plan designation for this area and the policies of the Northwest Area Plan. Furthermore, the commission stated the request is reasonable in the public interest as conditioned, the proposed conditional zoning light industrial district is similar and compatible with previous conditional zoning approvals granted in this area. Are there any questions of staff on these two applications?
Any questions from anyone for staff? Thank you, Mr. Shannon. Well, I have one question. If we approve this, that means we get to move our welcome to High Point sign a little farther up I-40?
Yeah.
All right.
We just built that one for Monica.
Okay. All right, we'll now hear from the applicant or the applicant's representative.
I'm Clayton Crone. My address 7 Crabtree Court. I represent Collier's property. That's the applicant on the zoning, and the party that's purchasing the property from the PTAA here in the near future. We're happy to answer any questions you may have. Anything in particular we can answer.
Thank you. I appreciate your patience.
Sure. It was entertaining.
Appreciate the patience of anybody who's left in the room. Thank you for being here.
Still awake?
That's right. And it's still awake, yeah. Is there anyone here to speak either in favor or against this item? Okay, hearing none, I'll make a motion for approval of annexation case 21-09.
Second.
Okay, there's a second by Councilman Hudson. Any discussion on the annexation request? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval, whoop, yes?
Need you to close your public hearing.
Oh, sorry. Public hearing is closed. There were no speakers.
Thank you, sir.
All right, sorry. Keep me on track there.
Fine.
All those in favor of approval of annexation case 21-09, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Yeah, that motion passes. Public hearing for the zoning map amendment is also closed. And I will make a motion for approval of that item and state that the map amendment case is consistent with the city's adopted policy guidance because, as conditioned, the requested CZLI zoning is supported by the restricted industrial land use plan designation for this area and the policies of the Northwest Area Plan. Furthermore, the request is reasonable and in the public interest because, as fashioned, the proposed CZLI district is similar and compatible with previous conditional zoning approvals granted in this area. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by the Mayor Pro Tem. Is there any discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approval of zoning map amendment 21-24, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, I believe these are 3 cases all lumped together. Two
Two
There's a
cases.
plan amendment and a zoning map, and then, okay.
Special use will be handled separately.
Special use is handled separately, all right. So the next 2 cases are plan amendment 21-07 and zoning map amendment 21-25. And for that, I'll go to Heidi Galante.
Thank you, Mayor. This request is to amend the land use plan for approximately 19 acres located at the northern terminus of Allegheny Street from light industrial to a heavy industrial classification. The heavy industrial classification includes a whole range of assembling, fabricating, and heavy manufacturing activities, some of which have environmental impacts or nuisance effects. The site is located at the southeastern quadrant of the intersection of I-74 and US 29. The subject property is outlined with a black dash. The area shown in pink represents light industrial, green represents recreation and open space, orange to the north represents moderate density residential, and yellow represents low density residential. Land uses in this area are as follows. To the north is US Highway 29. To the east is a single-family dwelling and an undeveloped parcel. To the south is an industrial park with manufacturing and warehousing. To the west is a single-family dwelling and an undeveloped parcel. Staff reviewed the applicant's request and noted that the land use plan is relevant to this request. It encourages development to respect the natural environment, and it promotes growth in an orderly fashion. This area was originally designated as heavy industrial in the mid-1980s, and it was changed to light industrial when the land use plan was last rewritten in 2000. In the late 1990s and early 2000, an industrial park was created along Allegheny Street and Lorraine Avenue. This parcel has remained undeveloped. The site is constrained by a stream and a 72-foot utility easement on the northern half of the property and a 200-foot Duke Power utility easement on the southeastern portion of the property. These constraints limit development to the middle portion of the property. Therefore, the plan amendment is limited to the approximate area where the property can be developed. Staff recommends approval of the request to change the land use designation for approximately 19 acres to the heavy industrial land use classification. Due to the constraints on the site and the adjacency to existing industrial uses, I-74 and US 29, the land use classification will be in harmony with the land use pattern of the surrounding area. The Planning and Zoning Commission met on October 26 and made a favorable recommendation by a vote of 9-0. Do you have any questions of me before I turn it over to her?
Any questions on the land use plan amendment? Thank you, Ms. Galante.
Thank you.
Shannon?
Yes, the zoning portion of this request is to rezone this property from its current light industrial zoning to a conditional zoning heavy industrial to support development of an asphalt plant and a concrete plant. This site, as Heidi notes, abuts an existing industrial park. Because the applicant is requesting the heavy industrial district, staff took a close look at this case. The HI district permits some of the highest intensity and allows some of the most noxious uses allowed in our ordinance. So we wanted to make sure that if this use is established, it would not have a negative impact on adjacent properties. I think the key issue dealing with this site is the physical constraints and those existing environmental features and physical features around this area. This is a copy of the topography map and shows stream. For those who are not used to reading these maps, where the lines are close together, there's a steep topography where the further part is further flat. You can see the site drops off, so any industrial development of this site will be lower than the adjacent industrial park, so you have that natural screening of views. But the key issue regarding this site is the physical constraints. To the north, you have the US 29, also known as Business 85 corridor. To the west, you have the I-74 corridor, so that kind of separates the site from any of the surrounding neighborhoods. You see a 200-foot wide Duke Power transmission area crosshatched along the southern portion of the site, and a 125-foot wide transmission easement. And then you have a 500 to 600-foot wide stream flood zone area associated with that perennial stream. So this site is about 29 acres, but only about 30% or 8 acres right in the middle is the area where you can put any type of use. The applicant has offered a condition to limit uses to the light industrial uses except for an asphalt plant, which we'll discuss in the special use permit, and the concrete plant. So besides those two uses, all other uses would be of a light industrial nature. And because of these physical constraints, any development of the site will be separated from adjacent property owners. Thus, staff is recommending approval for the rezoning of this property from its current light industrial district to a conditional zoning HI district. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this request at their October public hearing and recommended approval by a vote of 9-0. They stated that because the request is consistent with adopted policy guidance, because subject to approval of the plan amendment to establish heavy industrial land use classification for the area, the proposed CZHI district will be supported by adopted guidance documents. They also noted that the request is in the public interest because the site surrounded by LI zone lands and isolated by various physical and environmental constraints. As conditioned, it is reasonable to support HI district zoning at this location. That is a brief summary. Are there any questions for Ms. Galante or myself? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shannon. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Tom Terrell, 529 West Parkway Avenue, representing High Point Land Investments. For some clarification, would we like to do the plan amendment and rezoning first and then have the evidentiary hearing? Chris is nodding his head with great, okay. We will do that.
Public hearing's open.
Okay. I will take this very quickly. What you just saw in the images from Herb tells a great story. This site has been eaten up by floodplains, it's eaten up by transmission line. Most of it's not usable. It's got horrible topography. This is the best illustration. The 500-year floodplain does not give much room for anything, and there's not really good access to the site. Surrounded, however, by industrial. It's right next to highways. It has a dead end of Allegheny Street, and there's very little residential use in the area. So what it means is it's a very good location because it's just in this isolated pocket for something like an asphalt plant site. This shows the proximity to the highways. Right next door, Hickory Springs has a plant. This is where a lot of trucks are coming and going and using this road. In the next hearing, we have to address whether this is in harmony with the area. This is the residential home that is across the street. And I will just show you the photographs right here and move on. But I think you see the tone. This is a view looking down Allegheny that shows you that it is an isolated pocket, and there are power lines right here. We did have 2 people reach out. We did not have a neighborhood meeting, but we did send a letter to all owners within 300 feet. And the only 2 people who reached out to me asked if we wanted to buy their land. So that was the only feedback we have on the rezoning. We're glad to answer any questions, but of course, we ask you for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Terrell. Anyone with questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor or against this item, either the annexation case or the zoning map amendment? Okay, hearing none. I will make a motion for approval. You're not going to do it. Close the public hearing. It's been a long night. Public hearing is closed. Did I say the public hearing is closed?
Yeah.
Okay, public hearing is closed. Make a motion for approval of plan amendment 21-07. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Peters. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of plan amendment 21-07, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion is approved. On zoning map amendment 21-25, I'll make a motion for approval and state that the case is consistent with the city's adopted policy guidance because subject to approval of the plan amendment to establish a heavy industrial land use classification for the area, the proposed CZHI district would be supported by adopted policy guidance documents. And furthermore, the request is reasonable in the public interest because the site is surrounded by LI zone lands and isolated by various physical and environmental constraints. As conditioned, it is reasonable to support some limited HI district land uses at this location. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Seconded by Councilwoman Peters. Is there any discussion on the zoning map amendment? And hearing none, All those in favor of approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? And that motion passes unanimously. All right, now on to the special use permit.
Yes, because a special use permit is a quasi judicial hearing, anyone who wishes to speak would need to be sworn in by the clerk. So we can do that at this time.
Is there anyone who plans to be heard on this case? Please come forward to be sworn.
Got two more.
Yep, two more.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the information and testimony you're going to provide in this public hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Yes. It's been a long evening, so as not to be repetitive, I would just like to have the clerk note for the record to refer back to background information from zoning map amendment case 21-25 for background information. Special use permits are only reviewed by the High Point City Council. The applicant is requesting a special use permit to allow an asphalt plant use on this site. That use type is only permitted in the HI district with the special use permit approval from City Council. A special use is a use that may be appropriate in a zoning district, but because of its nature, extent, and external effect, it requires special consideration regarding location, design, and method of operation before it can be deemed appropriate. And thus, we have this special use hearing for City Council to make that determination based upon findings that staff has offered for your consideration in the staff report. I'm going to bring this same photo back up. Far as the 29-acre site, it's impacted by the transmission lines and flood zone and the stream. The only difference is what you see in the left and right-hand side of the area outlined in blue is that with a special use permit for that use, there are specific development standards that include a 50-foot setback. The applicant has offered a special use permit in which development for the asphalt plant is only permitted in that area shaded in that teal color. As far as the findings, that the request will not materially endanger public health or safety. The asphalt plant use must attain air quality permits and water permits from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. As far as complies with all required standards and conditions of the development ordinance, along with meeting requirements for the HI district, the asphalt plant use within our development ordinance, there are specific standards that have to meet regarding setback, security fencing, rehabilitation after cessation of use, and access. Based upon the size of the site and the manner in which the developable area is limited, the applicant is able to meet all those standards. They did submit a sketch plan to our technical review committee to take a look at. That was not a final approval, but just to make sure, can these requirements be met? Yes, they can. That the request will not substantially injure the value of abutting lands. The site is surrounded by LI zone property, south of the US 29 and east of the I-74 corridor. Both are multi-lane highways, which act as a barrier that separates the zoning site from adjacent lands to the north and west. And this slide shows how the physical constraints of the site pushes development away from adjacent properties and limits it to just that one area. The final finding, or two findings, that the request will be in harmony in which the area which is located in general conformance with the city's adopted policy guidance. Based upon the condition in their special use permit limiting the area development, it will be in harmony with the area, and based upon your prior action with the land use plan amendment and zoning, the request is in conformance with the city's adopted policy guidance. Thus, staff is recommending approval of this special use permit request. I would note with their applicant, within your packet, you see that special use permit. And this is the actual map that limits how the site could be developed. This is the sketch plan they submitted to our technical review committee. This is not binding, is because things may move around, but the important issue is that they have that one area they can develop in. We want to keep it flexible because items may move around, but nothing can go outside that area noted as area development. And to protect the environmental area, they have offered a condition that they are proposing an access drive around the perimeter of the site that will be a curved drive, so any loose material from the asphalt plant or the concrete use cannot go straight into the stream. It will go to that curb area and into their stormwater control device, which they will regularly maintain. That is a brief summary of the special use permit. Are there any questions of staff at this time?
This is, Councilman Moore, this is, not every day you look at an asphalt plant. Who, and all the environmental things that go with it, who reports and monitors, or who do they monitor through? Is that through the state or the city or both?
I'll let the applicant get into some of that, but far as the air and water quality, they're going to have the state monitoring that. As part of their site plan review process, staff will ensure they're meeting all appropriate stream buffer requirements, environmental standards, and based upon the manner they've conditioned their special use permit, the plan that staff will approve will only limit them into that area highlighted in teal, which keeps them out of the environmental area. It's my understanding that our stormwater department does annual reviews of stormwater control ponds, so they will be looking at that annually.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shannon. Any questions for staff? Thank you. All right, public hearing is open. We'll now hear from the applicant.
Tom Terrell, 529 West Parkway Avenue. I've almost memorized that. With the law firm Fox Rothschild representing High Point Land Investment. We have some notebooks to hand up with a lot of evidence, and I think if I can do this referentially, I can get us home a little bit quicker tonight. I do have, this is one for the clerk and for the attorney. Boss, could you hand them up? In fact, I can help you.
Thank you.
We do take the evidence in this seriously. Councilmember Moore asked a question about who monitors whom, and we actually have a project overview at the very beginning at the open leaf when I show you and make it clear that there are several permits coming down the road, not the least of which is an NCDOT driveway permit, but you have to go through the air quality division of the Department of Environmental Quality for an air permit. For an air permit, you have to do substantial computer modeling based upon the actual equipment that you're using and the load and other equipment that you will be putting in that. You also have to show the exact location, and it's very sophisticated, and the state handles that. Randleman Reservoir rules, Clean Water Act, all of that are applicable. Some are handled by the state, some handled actually by the city. We have several tabs here. These tabs apply to and are relevant to the standards. I'm first going to ask Mr. Bryce Dimitrick. Did I say that correctly? Close. Dimitrick. Yes. Mr. Dimitrick is a civil engineer. He works for Eagle Engineering. Could step up, Brian. You've been sworn in. I'm going to ask you two questions. First, to your satisfaction, does the applicant meet all of the standards and conditions in this application?
Yes, they do.
And have you read the materials that are in the health and safety portion of the notebook?
Yes, I have.
To your satisfaction, are they true and accurate?
Yes, they are.
Okay, thank you. Reynolds Neely, would you come up? Mr. Neely served for several decades as the planning director in the city of Ashboro. He is now a consultant for the town of Liberty. He has also worked for numerous companies across North Carolina on various projects. I'm going to do this quicker instead of a presentation, Mr. Neely. I'm going to ask you, did you author a report that in this notebook on how this project is in harmony with the area and in general conformity with the land use plan?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you adopt that statement as yours?
I do, and it's not just the land use plan, but several plans.
But several plans. Okay. Any questions of Mr. Neely? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll ask Molly Chisholm to come up. Ms. Chisholm is with a company, everybody here knows Hilton Crowder. She has been a state certified appraiser for 28 years. For 28 years. Ms. Chisholm prepared a market impact study using a paired sales analysis where you take property adjacent to an asphalt plant and compare it to property that's within the same time, market, and region, but far enough away that it would not be impacted. Ms. Chisholm, is this your report?
Yes, it is.
And do you conclude from your report that there's substantial evidence that this asphalt plant will not harm the value of adjacent or adjoining properties?
That's correct. Yes.
Any questions for Ms. Chisholm? Thank you, Molly. Mr. Mayor, I submit that the applicant has now presented competent material and substantial evidence entitling it to the permitting question. But we're glad to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Terrell. Any questions for the applicant or any of the folks who've been sworn?
Mr. Terrell, how long did this entire study take?
I'm sorry?
How long did this entire study take?
You mean the market impact study?
The market impact study.
Ms. Chisholm, I'll answer that for her. She did an asphalt plant for me in Statesville in 2016, and she had some of the data from that, but she has updated that data, and she added a new study and did some spot checks to determine that the data has holds from then to now.
Any, from that Statesville plant, which I'm assuming would be a comparable plant to what's being proposed here?
There were more businesses, and it was in a more populated area than this.
Any complaints, issues in that Statesville?
No.
Statesville plant?
No.
Any DEQ issues?
Any DEQ issues?
Yeah.
No.
Any reportables,
No.
anything?
When you go to DEQ, it's a checklist.
Yeah.
And if you don't meet it, they send you back to make changes and adjustments until you get it right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. No one, everyone who's been sworn has spoken, so I'm assuming there's no one else in the room who has evidence to present. Okay. Now, I have a question for our attorney. There is enclosed in the notebook that we got a draft order. Is this something that we've reviewed and can approve tonight, or we have to come back and do findings of fact later?
That is just something that's been recommended by Attorney Terrell.
Okay.
We will be going ahead and preparing the findings of fact as we usually do. I've made him aware of that already, and coming back for approval.
Okay. All right. Well, we can go ahead and approve the case and then return to those findings of fact later. Okay. So I will move for approval of special use permit case 21-03 with the understanding we're going to come back and approve formal findings of fact at a later date. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Holmes. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approval of this matter, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you for everyone's patience. We have several items on our general business agenda. We have two appointments. First one is the appointment of Jennifer Mays to the Parks and Recreation Commission. This is Council Member Williams' appointee. He's not able to be here tonight, but I move for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded, I believe that was Councilman Hudson. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion passes. Next one is Councilmember Hudson's appointee to the Theater Advisory Board of Oliver Helsebeck. Councilman Hudson, would you like to speak on this item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is to fill an open seat that we had. We had a member that moved out of town. This is to fill their seat for the remainder of their term. And with that, I will make a motion to approve the appointment.
Okay, there's a motion to approve this item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by somebody to my right here.
Johnson.
Councilman Johnson. Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion passes. Before we get to the minutes, I want to give the city manager an opportunity to speak about some opportunities for the public to speak, give their opinion on ARPA funding.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The city will have our public input sessions this week regarding the use of ARPA funding. City of High Point is expected to receive roughly $22 million as part of that project. There are 2 public information meetings that will be held. The first one will be Tuesday at the library from 6 to 7:30. The second meeting will be Thursday of this week at the museum from 6 to 7:30 as well. And if there's information that you would like to receive about these meetings, you can visit highpoint.gov/ARP, and you can receive additional information.
Thank you, Madam Manager. We have some minutes to be approved. I'll go ahead and make a motion for approval of those minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Hudson. Any discussion on the minutes? Any proposed changes? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Before we adjourn, I'd like to in advance wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Please try to come out for the parade on Sunday.
Tree lighting on the 20th.
And yeah, the tree lighting at the, on Gatewood and Lindsay, at the entrance to the Rockers Stadium, the Truist Point, will be on Saturday. I believe it's scheduled for 6 p.m. If the Tar Heels game against Wofford doesn't go into overtime, I may get back in time for that.
I'm going to be at that game too.
So there you go. If it,
Hey, Tar Heels.
hopefully, never know which Tar Heel team is going to show up, but hopefully that game won't get to overtime. I'll get back in time for the tree lighting. Is anyone else have anything they'd like to announce prior to adjournment? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion to adjourn has been made by the Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Jefferson. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the motion carries unanimously. We're now adjourned.